All right, everyone. Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started here with episode 127 of Tech Thursdays. This episode, we're going to be talking about the Tokyo Game Show that is currently happening in Japan. This starting, I think, yesterday or today is like the first day, and that's going to go through the weekend. So we're going to talk about that a little bit because we do cover gaming somewhat on this stream. I feel like the only thing that I've done for the channel this whole week is basically just stream Trails in the Sky. It's been Trails in the Sky since last Friday. I think we did show Silent Hill F in the middle of the week. I think that was Tuesday, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I feel like all we've done is just play Trails in the Sky the whole time, and I still have to finish the game. But we are going to also talk about motherboards. So on this episode, we're going to talk about motherboards because we are about to enter Q4. And Q4 means new PC builds and the holiday shopping season. So the Black Friday shopping season, all that stuff, everybody's well aware. This is the time when people typically will upgrade their computer. This is what I call we're in an off-season year. But it is still a good time to do a platform upgrade if you're somebody looking to either build a brand new computer for the first time or upgrade an existing computer, or maybe you're on like a really old platform that's like 5 years, 7 years old, etc. and it's time to upgrade. So we're going to talk about motherboards, and we'll probably also talk about RAM, and then answer any sort of questions pertaining to feature set on motherboards, what to look for. I saw a comment in the chat there talking about Xbox, capturing Xbox footage, what you need to do that. As someone who live streams all console games in addition to PC games, so, you know, we've covered Donkey Kong Bonanza, we've covered the Switch 2 launch, we've done a bunch of things like that. So, let's go ahead and, what's going on here? We're getting some lag with the, I don't know if we're doing internet lagging. Am I? Yeah, we're stuttering a little bit for some reason. Not sure why that's happening. Hold on. You guys may see the stream buffer for a second. I need to check something. What is going on here? Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, we're back. But something, I don't think there was anything wrong actually with the stream. It actually seems like Windows was doing something with the hard drive that I'm actually doing a local record to. It was pegged at 100% on the hard drive. So what I may do to resolve that or prevent that from happening in the future is I may actually locally record to an SSD, and then once the stream is done, I will move the stream to the hard drive for long-term storage. So this only recently started happening because I started live streaming in 4K native, and that is a lot more intensive on the disk space required. So yeah, I'm not sure why that happened, but anyway, it seems like it was more of like an operating system thing than like a Windows background task with the hard drive. I think it was probably indexing or something, but it was pegged at 100%. I didn't really notice that until I opened Task Manager. So anyway, but those are the sort of things we can talk about that too. That's a good use case for building a PC. But yeah, so a couple of game announcements for those of you that play Monster Hunter Wilds. So starting on Monday, the collaboration between Monster Hunter Wilds and Final Fantasy XIV will be available with Title Update 3. I did want to announce this because I will most likely be live streaming this. And what we did last time was I did team up with viewers in like group content to complete Title Update 2. I know we did it with Title Update 2 a few months ago, so we'll be doing the same thing with this one. So if you're somebody who is, I think you have to be Hunter rank, I don't even know what Hunter rank requires is, like probably Hunter rank, I would say 30 or 50 or something. If you're there, if you meet the minimum requirements and you want to come do this content with me, so it's going to feature Omega from the Stormblood expansion, and I think the Shadowbringers Dark Knight armor and weapon, as well as the Chocobo and the Alpha from Stormblood's 24-man raid series will also be available to unlock. So it's lots of interesting stuff. The Palico also can turn into, I think it's Marlboro. But yeah, this is something that we will be covering on Monday on the gaming side of the house. So if you're interested in Monster Hunter Wilds, we will be covering this game. So the Final Fantasy collaboration is supposed to come out at some point. I think we have the trailer for that. But yeah, that one comes later. So this one is the first one. So Monster Hunter is getting the collab event first. And then Final Fantasy XIV will get its collaboration on that in that game. So you're someone who is currently playing Dawn Trail. I don't know what in terms of requirements are to participate in that. I don't think you have to have completed, well, maybe you have to have completed Dawn Trail. I'm not sure. Actually, you know what? Now I think about it, you have to be level 100 to do the collaboration stuff if you're in Final Fantasy XIV. So that is something to be aware of if you're wanting to participate in that event. I will also do that one. Personally, when I remember the last time they did these collaborations, I feel as though Monster Hunter got the better end of the bargain. Meaning the content that you get in Monster Hunter is better than the content you get in Final Fantasy. Now, maybe that's going to be different this time around. Maybe it'll be more equal. I think like the thing you got in Final Fantasy last time was you got the Rathalos mount, which is pretty cool. But in Monster Hunter, you got a lot of stuff. You got the Dragoon armor, you got the Dragoon weapon, you got the Moogle, so the Palico could turn into a Moogle, the Moogle's weapon, and then you also got an emote that allowed you to jump really high in the air. This is basically the Dragoon's jump move, which actually allowed you to dodge Behemoth's Ecliptic Meteor during that phase of the fight. So very, very interesting stuff. I think this one, though, the Dark Knight's sword, it looks like a great sword. I don't know if it has the exact move set that a great sword has. I think it's kind of like what they did with the Akuma content, where you get a completely different fighting style. It's almost like Akuma has his own move set in the game. So I want to say that the Dark Knight in Monster Hunter is going to be similar to that. But I'm not 100% sure, but I assume that's what it's going to entail. So anyway, that is kind of a quick announcement on Monster Hunter Wilds, because this is coming very, very soon. It's literally Monday. We will be covering this. I kind of have to fit this in, like on such short notice. I almost completely forgot about this. But that is one thing to be aware of if you're somebody who is interested in that. So I am somebody who has put a ton of hours into Monster Hunter Wilds as it is. I think I have like, 200, almost 300 hours in the game. That is probably my most played game of this year currently. So I think the second most played game for me is Elden Ring Night Rain. But I think that game I've played like 160, 170 hours, whereas Monster Hunter is almost like 300 hours. So apparently I've played Monster Hunter even though it doesn't feel like it, I've played way more Monster Hunter than I've played Elden Ring. But it seems like the only game that I recall playing consistently since release was Elden Ring. So I'm not even sure how I got that many hours in Monster Hunter, but apparently I've got a lot of hours in Monster Hunter as it is. But we will be covering Title Update 3. And then Title Update 4 is coming in December. And supposedly, if I remember correctly, Capcom did say that Title Update 4 is supposed to be the one that addresses a lot of the performance issues that the PC players have been running into since launch. As far as I'm concerned, with the current state of the game, nothing has changed in terms of performance. It runs exactly the same as it has since the launch of the game back in late February. But I'm someone who has tested the game extensively with a whole bunch of different hardware configurations. We have tested this game all the way from an RTX 5090 all the way down to, I think we tested like an RX 7600 or a 7600 XT or something, and we tested the Intel GPU. So it's like we've done a lot of testing with the game, and currently, as far as I'm concerned, they haven't done anything to improve the performance. It's still basically exactly the same performance as it was at launch. But in December, that's supposed to change. What I would actually want to see from them, I would like to see them improve the image quality, because for some reason, I agree with most of the people that have complained about the visual quality of Monster Hunter Wilds doesn't look like it should. There's a lot of people saying that it looks worse than World, or it looks equal to World, or it looks like a PlayStation 4 game. I mean, I hear those comments all the time. I think that RE Engine is capable of much better visual quality than what we have seen from the current game. We have certainly seen the trailer for Resident Evil Requiem, which is coming out next year. That game shows what RE Engine is capable of. This game, for some reason, does not, and I think part of it is because this game is very CPU demanding because it is kind of like an open world game, very similar to Dragon's Dogma, but here they're pushing multiplayer, so it's online. There's an online component, so you're connecting to servers, you're connecting with other players, so it's more like an MMO in that regard, which means it's going to be way more demanding than a game like Dragon's Dogma 2 ever was. So that is something to look forward to for those of you that are big fans of the Monster Hunter franchise. Supposedly, it's going to get performance optimizations in December, so we're about to get the update for, I guess, the very end of September, but there will be another one you have to wait for if you're somebody who is playing it on older spec computer hardware and you've been struggling to experience the game the way it was meant to be played. So, okay. So that covers that. There was a couple of games. So I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the Tokyo Game Show coverage, but they basically, all the games that I'm interested in that they've shown off are either coming out literally in the next like 30 days, or they're not coming out until Q1 of next year. So most of what I'm interested in from the Tokyo Game Show has been shown off that's going to launch in January, February, and March. So there's a couple of games here that I'm tracking. We can kind of go through them if you guys want, or we can just start talking about motherboards. So I'll leave it up to the audience to decide. But one of the games that I am looking to play in January is the next Trails game. So the latest Trails game, Trails Beyond the Horizon, which was shown off. So let's go ahead and...
For those of you...
Whoa, that's loud. Hold on. I'll make this like half volume, I guess. Make this a little bit... There we go.
Just joining us, Project Star Taker, led by
Alright, so this is coming out on January 15th of next year. We've been covering Trails pretty extensively for about a week now, mainly because the first game got a remake, and that's pretty much all I've been playing for the past week. This game, though, is supposed to be one of those, I guess, intermission style games. It's a game that concludes the existing story arc and then introduces or starts the next story arc. So what that means is you can expect this game to have a whole bunch of characters, a whole bunch of playable characters from the entire series, from going as far back as Sky and all the way up to Daybreak. So if you're somebody who is interested in very story-driven games with a mix of both action, combat, and turn-based combat, this is probably something that you should consider looking into. Any decent old-school Dungeon Master type game like you used to play on the Amiga? Dungeon Master type game? Oh, not that I'm aware of, but I know that there is a strategy game that is literally about to come out in a few days called Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. That is something worth looking into if you like those type of strategies. But Dungeon Master type, not one that's coming out soon, not that I'm aware of. But if you like strategy type games, I would recommend Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, that's not the same type of game as what you're asking, but that is one that is... It was kind of popular in that time when those type... Well, actually, no. Strategy turn-based came out later, so I guess I'm wrong. I'm thinking more of like PlayStation 1. I'm thinking of the 90s era. You're thinking of something a little bit before that. Are they waiting for stable BIOS? They said, well, I'm not sure what that question is referring to. Stable BIOS for what? Alright, so that was Trails Through the Horizon, or Beyond the Horizon. So the next game that I'm interested in is this one. Rated T for teen, apparently. So this one is going to be Code Vein 2. This is coming in January of next year. So this is another game that I'll be covering.
Another world snuffed from existence.
The nice thing about Tokyo Game Show is it gives me an idea of like how to plan my roadmap of games to look forward to and prepare for ahead of time.
Our objective is to save this world, our current world.
So I played Code Vein 1. The original game was in 2019. It was supposed to come out in 2018. It got delayed by a year. And it was okay. I liked it. The difficulty scaling didn't work that well for me though, so I kind of lost interest in it once I finished the game. Like I never did a New Game Plus run or anything like that. When I first saw this, I thought this is like God Eater.
Let's go.
And I was thinking, is this God Eater 4 or is this Code Vein 2? But then the whole vampire style made me think, yeah, no, this has got to be Code Vein.
Today, you'll pay your dues.
I don't know, the combat in this game, to me, doesn't look like it's that improved over the first one. And my main criticism of the first game was the combat needed to be smoother. It felt clunky. But anyway, there it is. Code Vein 2, January 30th. Available for pre-order now. So this is... I was not expecting this to come out as early as it's coming out. I thought this game was going to be like May, June, April, somewhere in Q2. But for it to be launching the end of January is very, very surprising. So I don't know how many of you watching the stream are interested in this game. I don't know. Maybe people watching this are not interested in these type of games at all. I have no idea. But this is one game that I am somewhat looking forward to. I won't say that I'm like crazy about this game, but I did play the first one and I liked the first one. And I think this game, the sequel's worth trying. As someone who enjoyed the first game, I would say the first game was either a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10. From what I've seen in the trailer of the second one, I'm pretty sure the second one's going to land in the exact same score. It's either going to be a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10. It doesn't look amazing. It doesn't look like any sort of game of the year contender or anything that can dethrone like an Elden Ring type game. No, this is nothing like that. It is inspired by those type of games though. So if you like somewhat difficult, challenging games that they reward you for exploring the area and focusing on leveling up your character with a certain build. There's a lot of build variety. There's a lot of like different class-based systems and weapon types. You'll probably like this game. So the original game came out in 2019. So it's going to have been, it was like, I want to say it was August, September, October of 2019. So it has been 6 years since the original game. So it'll have been about 6.5 years when the second game launches versus when the first one was out. So it was the same year as Devil May Cry 5, for those curious. All right, so that's Code Vein 2. You like racing games? Racing? So there's a brand new racing game that literally came out today. Sonic Crossworlds is out today. Like today's the launch. Originally, I was thinking of covering that game, but there's just too many other games. And I'm not super into racing games anymore. Like the one racing game that I played this year was Mario Kart World, and that's because I got a Switch 2 on launch day at midnight launch at Best Buy. So that's the reason why I covered Mario Kart World. But otherwise, I don't know. Like I was interested in Sonic Crossworlds or Crossworks. I think it's called Crossworlds, Sonic Crossworlds. But I just don't have time. I mean, and I'm starting to become more picky in terms of what games I'm actually going to cover, just because there's just too many of them now. And I feel like I've gotten kind of burned on some of the other games that I got earlier this year that just did not live up to the hype, at least in my opinion. So a couple of prime examples are Lost Soul Aside. That game was quite disappointing. That it was kind of like Devil May Cry, but it was no Devil May Cry in terms of the vibe of the game was like, no. It just didn't do it for me. So I kind of felt like I got burned on Lost Soul Aside. And the other one that I didn't really enjoy that much was Wuchang. Wuchang, Black Myth Wukong from last year was amazing. Wuchang this year was mediocre. So I'm going to be a lot more picky now when it comes to picking Souls-like games, because I don't really have a whole lot of time to cover every single one of them. And so I'm only really going to go with the tried and true, well-established franchises. I know that sounds really lame. I should support more independent developers that are up and coming, but you know, like if their games are really not going to be that great, I just don't have time to cover them anymore. Unless they want to send me a review copy or something. Alright, so that's Code Vein 2. The next game on my list is Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. This game launches on February 5th of 2026. Is this gonna have music though?
That's enough for one day.
This might have
Time for
music
me to
that
head
gets
back to the
me,
castle.
that might be
And
copyright, so I might have to
remember,
mute it. I don't
not a
know.
word about this place to anyone. There's
I'm
more
still
to
questioning
this
whether
game,
I'll actually get this
and we're
game.
going to
This is
prove
one of those games. So I've never played a Dragon Quest game. So those of you, but I hear so much about it. Those of you that have played Dragon Quest, let me know your opinion on it. Is this like a day one purchase for you? Oh yeah, it's got like Tokyo Metropolitan Symphony playing. All right, so this, I'm somewhat interested in it as someone who has never played a Dragon Quest game. But this channel is known for the Dragon Ball Z memes and the Dragon Ball Z analogies. And I know that the artwork is based off of, what's his name? Akira, what is his name? I forget his last name, I'm drawing a blank. But the guy who basically did Dragon Ball, the manga artist for Dragon Ball, he also did the art for the Dragon Quest series. At least the promotional art and the character designs. So I've always been somewhat interested in Dragon Quest, but never really got into it. Like I've never played a Dragon Quest game. So I've kind of consolidated in terms of RPGs. It's like, okay, Trails, Tales, and Final Fantasy. You know, like if I have to narrow it to like a top 3, Toriyama, thank you. Yeah, Akira Toriyama. He's the artist for this franchise. So, I don't know. The game looks good. At least the trailer makes it look good. So, I might try it. Dragon Quest VII apparently is like one of the best ones in the franchise. And they redid the whole thing. It's like a full reimagined. Kind of like the Final Fantasy VII remake. So, there it is. Available February 5th, 2026. So, that is one that I am thinking of covering. But one game that I am absolutely getting day one launches the exact same day as Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. And that game is this game.
Who will be Shogun?
Kurimatsu, why? You'll never understand what it means!
I am Himiko. On my
I don't know why
honor as
they did the
queen,
trailer
I
this
shall
way.
defeat Hiroko.
My timeless.
The trailer, I don't know why they did the trailer this way. It just, the trailer seems so messy. It does not help sell this game.
long as this dark radiance exists, my fight will continue.
They're going back to Sengoku. Here we go. This is it. You know this is gonna be good.
To rule, one must prove their might.
The light of hope lies unseen at the end of time. Go now!
You wish to become Shogun that badly?
Maybe you don't want it enough. What makes a shogun anyway?
Takachio! Strength and superiority are what make a Shogun, and I have both! Strength alone is not enough to end this war!
Alright, this game, Nioh 3. Oh yeah, there it is, February 6th of next year. So this game, if it's anything like Rise of the Ronin was on PC, this game is going to be really hard to run at launch for no apparent reason. Because the visuals are not going to match the hardware demands, just like Rise of the Ronin. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with this game, This is a game. People who have been watching my streams, I streamed a little bit of Nioh 2 in the past, and people were like, "What game is this? What game is this? What game? This looks so cool. What game is this?" So this is the next addition to that game. Yes, it's gonna be that game. So Nioh 3, I will definitely be getting this day one. This is gonna be a pre-order. Yeah. So this is basically Nioh 2 combined with the open world structure of Rise of the Ronin. So it's like you're going to be able to wander around a big open world with segmented areas that are similar to the mission-based stages of Nioh 2. So in that regard, it's going to be a lot like Elden Ring, that was From Software's big game back in 2022. For those of you that remember Elden Ring, so it's going to be kind of like Elden Ring. I don't think it's going to be as big in terms of the scale of the world map. I could be wrong, but I don't think this game is going to be that large in terms of the world. However, it is going to be a lot larger and open roaming compared to Nioh 2. So they're taking, because in an interview, the Tokyo Game Show interview with the developers over at Team Ninja, they talked about how basically Team Ninja has been releasing games every single year consistently since like 2020 or yeah, 2021 or so, because you guys have to remember, they did Nioh 2 in 2020 on PlayStation 4 exclusive. Then a year later, 2021, they brought Nioh 2 to other platforms like the PC. Then in 2022, that was the year of Elden Ring. Remember that year? They launched their collaboration game with Square Enix, which was Final Fantasy Origins. It was, what was the name of the full title was Stranger of Paradise. Final Fantasy Origin, which was a retelling of the very first Final Fantasy game. And that was a very unique game. I really enjoyed Stranger of Paradise. So that game was the game they put out in 2022. Unfortunately, that game was eclipsed by Elden Ring, much like the Horizon Forbidden West game was. I remember Horizon Forbidden West came out, and then like a week or two later, Elden Ring launched and completely eclipsed Horizon Forbidden West. And it didn't help that Horizon was a PlayStation exclusive when it launched, because it didn't come to PC until like way later. I think it was like over a year later. So it was a PlayStation exclusive. Then Elden Ring launched, completely eclipsed it. Then Final Fantasy Origins launched in March. It was like a few weeks. It was like 2 or 3 weeks after Elden Ring, and barely even made a dent in terms of like anyone getting media coverage of it, because everyone was too busy covering Elden Ring. So that's the reason why when there's this big game that comes out, all the developers are afraid of launching next to that big game. So it's like we've seen this discussion with GTA 6, right? Like everybody's scared. All the developers are scared of launching right next to GTA 6 for the reasons that I just explained. So anyway, so 2022 was Stranger of Paradise. 2023 was a game called Wolong Fallen Dynasty, which we did cover. That was basically, it was like Dynasty Warriors meets Nioh, but it's like Nioh style combat, but they went so hard on pairing. It was like they wanted to do Sekiro style, but amped up to an 11 in terms of the speed of the combat. So not a lot of people enjoyed Wolong. It was okay. I thought it was okay. They also had the controversial morale system, which a lot of people either liked or didn't like. But I thought Wolong was okay. Stranger Paradise was way better, but Wolong was okay. Then in 2023, is that right? No. 2023 was Wolong Fallen Dynasty. 2024, so last year, they launched the PlayStation 5 exclusive, which was Rise of the Ronin, which I did cover as well. And then we revisited that game back when the PlayStation 5 Pro came out, because that game ran pretty terribly on the PlayStation 5. And then in this year, 2025, they brought Rise of the Ronin to PC. So now all the PC players can experience that game. That game is kind of like, it's like Team Ninja made an Assassin's Creed style game. Like, I don't know how else to summarize it or oversimplify it for people that are not familiar with what the game is about. But it's just effectively, it's like Assassin's Creed. It's like Team Ninja wanted to make a Ubisoft style action stealth game. And that's basically what Rise of the Ronin is. But it's got Nioh style combat, but it's slowed down, so it's more like Assassin's Creed. It's kind of hard to explain without somebody playing it, but I thought it was an okay game. I never finished it though, so that to me that says a lot. If I don't finish the game, that's usually not a good sign. But Nioh 3 is coming out next year, early next year. I'm surprised it's coming out in February. I thought this game was going to be like March at the earliest. Sometime between March and May was when I thought this game was going to launch. So it coming out in February, early February at that, is very surprising. So Nioh 3, definitely looking forward to it. I highly, highly recommend this game if you like very punishing, challenging, hard, fast-paced action games that are harder than Elden Ring. If you think Elden Ring is hard, you probably don't want to play this game. If you like the challenge of a game like Elden Ring and you want something that's even more punishing and more challenging than Elden Ring, definitely get Nioh 3. You will not be disappointed. So this game makes Elden Ring look like easy mode in terms of difficulty. So I participated in the open or closed beta test thing that they did back in the summer, and you guys saw me streaming it. It was good. I liked it. So I wasn't sure. I wasn't 100% sold on the ninja and samurai dual job switching mechanic compared to how they had the yokai transformations in the second game. I actually kind of preferred the second game style. But I don't know. Maybe there's more that they didn't reveal in the demo that might make me think twice about that. So anyway, that's Nioh 3. And then the next big game that I am interested in getting is going to be Resident Evil Requiem. This game shows the RE engine at its best, unlike Monster Hunter.
Hello? Yes.
Who was it?
Dunno. They asked for Miss Ashcroft and then they hung up on me.
Rude.
Who here is getting this game? Start a poll.
Oh, you're FBI? Investigating all these strange deaths, huh?
Grace, stay close to me.
I'm coming!
Keep moving.
What's wrong?
I'll explain later.
One person voted no. This game might be a lot scarier than the previous Resident Evil games. At least scarier than the remakes.
Watching you. You're not like other people, you know. You're quite unique.
Tell me what's going on.
Something important.
Mom, I'm scared.
Grace. They're coming.
There's no escaping your destiny.
Man, Capcom knows what they're doing, man. Like, everyone keeps complaining about developers being incompetent these days when it comes to making all these games. Or the biggest complaint that I hear is, oh, it takes so long for games to come out now. Capcom is launching games like every year, guys. Capcom is cranking out like multiple games, AAA games every year, non-stop. They've been doing it, like, we can start listing them off, right? Like, 2019 was Devil May Cry 5 and Resident Evil 2 remake. 2020 or 2021, one of those years was Resident Evil 3 remake. And then they had Resident Evil Village. Then they did Resident Evil 4 remastered. They did Street Fighter 6. They did Dragon's Dogma 2 last year. This year, they did Monster Hunter Wilds. Next year, they've got Requiem and maybe Pragmata and also Onimusha. I mean, they are doing something right because Capcom is definitely, like, on track. Like, they deliver. They always deliver. They've never let me down. They stick to their roadmap. They bring their games out on time, multiple, high quality. Really, really good. The other one is Team Ninja, Koei Tecmo, man. Say what you will about Dynasty Warriors, but they're cranking out the Dynasty Warriors games. Regardless of the Dynasty Warrior games, they're still putting out like top tier action games. We just listed a whole bunch every single year since 2021 or 2020. So for the past 5 years, 6 years, both Capcom and Koei Tecmo have delivered on rock solid games. Like, these are all AAA games. Like, literally this year alone, Team Ninja delivered Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, Unreal Engine 5 remaster of a classic action game from the Xbox 360 era. You know, like, that is, they did that. We're about to get Ninja Gaiden 4 in October, so it's literally like 1 month away. Ninja Gaiden 4, yes, Platinum Games was contracted to develop that. But hey, they're delivering a new Ninja Gaiden game. And it's been more than a decade since Ninja Gaiden 3. So they're delivering. And then Rise of the Ronin for PC was earlier this year. Next year, they've got Nioh 3. So the Japanese developers, at least the big ones, the big studios, Capcom, the big publishing companies, Koei Tecmo, they are delivering. They are not letting us down. Ace Combat. Yeah, so it's funny because we were just talking about, like, Team Ninja, and then we're talking about Capcom. So Capcom has the Resident Evil franchise. But do you guys know that Koei Tecmo has their own survival horror franchise? And they're coming out with a game early next year as well. So it's really interesting because we literally just got Silent Hill F today from Konami. And then we're getting Resident Evil Requiem in February. So that's only a few, like, that's like 4 months away. Well, 5 months if you include all of February. So that's pretty far off. But the thing is another game. We were talking about this when I was streaming Silent Hill F, about, like, which is scarier, Silent Hill or Resident Evil, or none of the above, or other. And the answer was other, because there's another game that's coming out. This game's coming out next year too, and this one's probably going to make Resident Evil Requiem look like it's not scary at all.
I've heard about this place. A long time ago, there was a village here that disappeared during a festival. And people who get lost in the woods are called to the village. Do you think this is... What happened?
The ritual will begin soon.
Everyone's dead. Nioh, no. Stay back. Run away. Butterfly. Remake. Finally. We're one.
Okay, if you're somebody who doesn't like scary games, do not play this game. You can play Resident Evil Requiem, but if you don't like scary games, if they cause you to have heart palpitations or if you have high blood pressure or whatever due to the scary game inducing anxiety, do not play this game. Fair warning. This game, like I said, this game makes Resident Evil look like a theme park in terms of scare value or scare factor. But yeah, I can't believe, I want to look at one thing here. I recognize the ghosts. I want to look at this real quick. I kind of want to analyze this trailer specifically. I can't analyze Requiem because Requiem doesn't show much of the enemies that you encounter, but this game does. So right here, all right, that's Miyako, the first ghost. That's the first ghost. This game is a game about ghosts. So if you don't like ghosts and supernatural, do not play this game. Just saying. So that's the first ghost that they encounter. Miyako. And then, let's see. Let's go. Okay, right here. There's Sai. Oh, yeah. Okay. There's Sai. And there's the Kusabi behind her. Kusabi is the Mr. X / nemesis of this game. Yes, every one of these type of games has that invulnerable opponent that if you get grabbed by them, it's game over. One-touch kill. So you have to run for your life. And then there's, I forgot this guy's name. The guy who's like stuck in that cage thing. Then there's the mourners. You always got to have that one blind enemy that can't see you, but they can hear you. So it's like you have to stealth. And then you have, I forgot the little girl's name. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. There's Ringu girl. So they've got the girl from Ring. They literally have the Ju-on, the what's her name? The girl that comes out of the well and walks through the TV. If you guys know what I'm talking about, she's in the game. So she's an enemy. That's literally her. That's either her coming out of the well or that's her coming out of the box. But I don't like the way they did her. Like, she doesn't even look that scary with the new graphics. There's not enough hair covering her face. You're not supposed to see her face. And then Tachibana, I think, is this one. The little kid. Kyrie, and then I'm not sure what that is. That was the twin. Yeah, so this one, this is a day one purchase for me. This one is probably like, this is definitely like in top 3 best survival horror games of all time in terms of how scary it is, in terms of how good the story is, the puzzles, the enemy design, everything. Super good. Like literally, I think ChatGPT or one of the AI, Gemini or Grok or one of them wrote a college essay comparing Silent Hill. It was comparing Silent Hill, Fatal Frame, and Resident Evil. And the AI, in the term paper, the AI concluded that Fatal Frame was the scariest one out of the 3. And it gave really good reasons why. And I was actually surprised. Man, the AI can analyze like fear factors and stuff. Like, okay. All right, well, anyway, that is Fatal Frame. I don't know when this one comes out. They say early 2026, which when someone says early, when a developer says early 2026, that to me means Q1. So that means anywhere from January 1st to March 31st. Because if they say early and then it comes out in May, to me, May is or April is not early 2021 because you're literally like closer to the halfway point in the year at that point. All right, so that's basically, those are the games that I'm tracking for next year. There were a couple for March that I'm considering, like Saros and Crimson Desert. Those are going to be more graphically demanding games than these, I would imagine. This is using Team Ninja's proprietary engine. As far as I know, maybe it's Unreal Engine 5. I don't know. It could be Unreal Engine 5 because they did Ninja Gaiden 2 Remake with the UE5 engine, and the game looks great. So I don't know. Maybe they are going to do that. We have not gone over the new motherboards, so we can talk about the new motherboards now if you guys want. So let's do that, I guess. MSI X870E Max. So there are some new motherboards from MSI in particular, but they're not the only one. It's really MSI and ASRock are the ones that have all these new motherboards. So Godlike X Edition, if you're somebody looking for a super high-end motherboard, MSI's flagship Godlike motherboard is one worth looking into. They also have the Ace, so the Ace is supposed to also be coming out. I don't know when, though, because I assumed that it was going to be September. But maybe it's just like last year, where last year it was September 30th, I believe. So Q4, we should be seeing these motherboards. Now, I don't know if they're going to be in every single market or every single region globally. For example, the M-Power is supposed to be coming back, but it could end up being a motherboard that's only available in the Asian region. So if you're somebody in Asia Pacific, you might have access to the M-Power from MSI as an option, as an overclocker's motherboard. Otherwise, I think most people globally should have access to the Ace Max and the Godlike X edition, I guess. But yeah, Ace Max is one of them. They don't have their product pages, though, for some reason. Like, if I search, unless it just became available. Yeah, they don't have, I don't know why they don't have a launch date yet, but those motherboards are there if you're somebody interested in those. Now, what we can do is we can use the block diagram of the old one or the existing one. So let's just pick one of them. Let's just do the Godlike one then. MSI Godlike. Godlike X Edition is basically going to be a similar motherboard, except different design for the LED screen thing. And then also the dynamic dashboard is supposed to be the newer one that doesn't have the problem. Because if you're anybody who was following the Godlike, you would have been made aware of the issues that they had with the dynamic dashboard, which is the removable screen that shows you stuff like your CPU temperature, the MOSFET's temperature, the pump speed, the fan speed, all those things, the voltages. It shows you all of that, but it was prone to some kind of hardware problem. And the only way to fix it, there was a firmware update that was supposed to solve the problem. I ran into the problem. I did the firmware update. It fixed the problem for like 6 months or so. Then one day the dashboard started disconnecting. Like I would hear the USB disconnect sound and then would reconnect and then would disconnect and reconnect. In fact, we even caught it happening on stream once or twice, and I have ended up having to RMA the dashboard. Now, you don't have to send the entire motherboard to them. You just send the dashboard to them, and they replace it. So since replacing it, I haven't had any problems. So I assume if you're someone who is interested in getting the new Godlike, I'm pretty sure, I would assume, I don't know 100%, but I would assume that the new one shouldn't have that problem, because the newer one that I got as a replacement has not had any problems. So I assume maybe they gave me whatever the new one that's meant to go on the X edition is. So anyway, Godlike is a good choice if you're somebody who needs a dedicated PCIe X4 slot, or if you're someone who needs to run a lot of M.2 drives, like, for example, 5, 6, 7 M.2 drives, or if you want to run a lot of system RAM. Like, for example, if you want to run 256 gigabytes of system memory, you can do that with this motherboard. And if you know what you're doing, or if you buy the correct memory kit, you could even get this RAM running at like 5600, and if you truly know what you're doing, you might even be able to get it to run at 6000. Okay. QDIMM support is there, but it will vary by CPU series. So if you're using a Ryzen 9000 series CPU, the motherboard will boot up with QDIMM and it will run in a bypass mode. If you have an older CPU, like for example, if you have a 7000 series, like if you have a Ryzen 9 7950X3D, for example, as far as I know, if you try to run QDIMM with that CPU, the motherboard might not boot up at all. Like, it'll probably just sit there with a black screen. Now, I could be wrong, but they say that the support varies by CPU. I know the Ryzen 9000 series doesn't do anything with the clock driver, but it will work with the QDIMM RAM. It just won't run the clock driver. It'll just bypass it. So you can use it with that RAM, but it's not really going to do anything. It's almost like you should have just bought regular RAM, you know. So that's how the 9000 series behaves. The 7000 series, I don't even know if it'll work at all. So if you're someone who is looking at getting a motherboard like this, and you are going to use an existing Ryzen 7000 series CPU, do not buy QDIMM memory because it might not work. Like, you may end up having to return the RAM and just swap it for something else. So I don't recommend that if you have an older CPU. If you have the 9000 CPU, you can use QDIMMs, and I would say that's not necessary. However, it's not a bad idea to purchase QDIMM, because most likely, if you upgrade to Zen 6 in the future, Zen 6 will support QDIMM. It's one of those things, it's like, buy a technology now that you cannot benefit from today, but you could potentially benefit from in the future. Although not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people even recommend doing that, because by the time this technology really takes off, if you had waited, the newer stuff, like the second generation or the third generation of this technology, will most likely be superior to the first generation of this technology. So that's just something to be aware of. That's typically how these things work. Okay, and then onboard graphics, every single X870E and every single, I guess, you know what? Let's use Paint. I'll just use Paint because I think that's a better, like, my audience typically prefers that, and then I think it's a better way to illustrate a lot of these points, even though I can use MSI's product page. All right, so there's a couple of things to be aware of if you're in the market for a new motherboard. First, you have to choose the chipset that you want to go with. So you can either go with X870E, which is what I personally recommend. The alternative choice would be X870. And then if you're someone who is on, like, some strict budget, like you're just trying to stay under a certain price point and you're willing to give up certain things, B850 is worth considering, although I don't recommend B850. I recommend the other two. If you're someone who's on a strict budget, I would say get X870 and don't get B850. But you can decide ultimately if you want B850. So the thing to be aware of, you have CPU lanes and you have chipset lanes with every single one of these motherboards. Okay? The CPU lanes on X870E is PCIe 5.0, 24 lanes. 24 lanes of Gen 5. X870, PCIe 5.0, X24 lanes. So you get the same identical CPU lanes across both of these. So that's another major reason why I recommend X870 over B850, because B850 is not going to guarantee you PCI Gen 5. And who wants to be buying a motherboard in 2025 that only does PCI Gen 4 off of CPU lanes when pretty much every new graphics card that has launched this year has been PCI Gen 5? This one, it's PCIe 5.0 X4 plus PCIe 4.0 X20. Or maybe it's 16. Yeah, it's 20. Okay. So something like this. However, this is like an optional thing, meaning if a motherboard manufacturer wanted to, they could theoretically offer you the full fat 24 Gen 5 lanes on a B850 board, but they don't have to do that because the minimum spec is this. So you do get Gen 5, and the reason why, or what you would do with the Gen 5 is always going to be for an M.2 SSD. So with a B850, as far as I know, the typical B850 motherboard will not allow you to run, say, an RTX 5090 at the full Gen 5 bandwidth. It'll be stuck on Gen 4 bandwidth if you're on B850. That is my understanding. Now, some motherboards out there might be B850 boards that claim to offer 24 lanes of Gen 5. However, if they do this, I don't understand why the vendor of that motherboard wouldn't just call that motherboard an X870 motherboard. So this is always going to be for an SSD. And this is going to be for USB 4 if they offer it, or it's going to be for an X4 slot plus your graphics card. All right, so those are your CPU lanes off of the motherboard. Now you also have the chipset lanes. The chipset lanes for the flagship include PCIe 4.0 X12 plus 3.0 X8. So these are the chipset lanes. You get 12 Gen 4, and you get 8 Gen 3. These are the lanes of the chipset on the motherboard for X870E. For X870, you get PCI 4.0 X8 plus 3.0 X4. So notice the difference. Notice the reduction in lane count when you go from X870E down a tier to X870. You lose half of your Gen 3 lanes. On this one, we have 8 lanes. On this one, we only have 4 lanes. And likewise, on the Gen 4, here we have 12 lanes of Gen 4, but on this one, we only have 8. So we lose 4 lanes. So in total, X870 has 8 minus 8 lanes total compared to the flagship X870E. B850 has the same exact lanes on the chipset as X870. So notice that. These two are identical when it comes to the chipset lanes. You get your 4 Gen 3 and you get your 8 Gen 4 on both. So if you're somebody who doesn't really need a lot of lanes, if you're not going to be connecting a bunch of capture cards, peripherals, sound cards, DACs that are in the computer. I'm not talking about USB stuff because everyone's using USB now. If you're someone who needs the lanes, you are much better off going with X870E. Because you get all the lanes. You get, let's do the totals. 24 plus 12, that's 36 plus 8. 44 PCIe lanes. Okay, total. These are the total lanes. Total lanes. 44 PCIe lanes on the flagship platform. X870, 24 plus 8, that's 32 plus 4. So you have 36 PCIe lanes, and this guy is going to be identical, 36 PCIe lanes. So those are your total lane counts for all three chipsets. So there you go. The other thing is USB 4. USB 4 is mandatory. So USB 4 support. This is a very important feature, and a lot of people often overlook this feature. USB 4 support. This is standard equipment on X870E and X870. However, on B850, it is an optional feature. It is not mandatory. Some people, for whatever reason, they don't care about USB 4. They don't need USB 4. I am someone who must have USB 4. If I'm going to buy a laptop, it has to have USB 4. If it doesn't have USB 4, I'm not buying it. Same thing goes with the motherboard. Any motherboard that I purchase with my own money must have USB 4. This is a non-negotiable required feature. The motherboard in 2025 must have this feature. So that means for someone like me, that automatically excludes a whole bunch of B850 motherboards. If they don't have USB 4, I completely ignore them. They are invisible to me. And I've gotten a lot of comments asking me to do a tier list video of B850. And the only reason why I have not made that video after all this time, nearly a year now, is because I don't recommend B850 motherboards. I don't think you should get a B850 motherboard. I think if somebody wants to save money, they're better off getting a budget X870 motherboard. They'll be a lot more satisfied with it in the long run, and it won't shortchange them on things like PCIe bandwidth, and it ensures that they stay up to speed with the latest trends in the industry. So that is the reason why I don't recommend B850 motherboards. However, some B850 motherboards do offer these features. They're just optional. So meaning if you are someone who, for whatever reason, you must buy a B850 motherboard, you have to do a lot more research when you're comparing motherboards versus just picking one of these because it looks cool and it's within the budget and being done with it. You know what I mean? So anyway, those are the lane counts and the support stuff. So there's kind of different price points. The price point on this goes from like this is like $350 to like $1,100. That's the range. So now we'll say price range. The price range on X870E is as low as $350. In some cases, it can even be down to, well, we've changed that a little bit. Let's say the price range can be as low as like $299 all the way up to like $1099. Okay, or we can just, to make it easy, $300 to $1,100. That's a very, very wide range. And that's another reason why, you know, personally, I would try to, like, recommend someone to get one of these. They don't have to spend $1,100, but they can spend $300, and they'll be very satisfied with the motherboard. X870, the range is narrower. It's typically going to be around 200 to... some of them can be on sale for, like, sub 200, but usually they're, like, 200 to $400, somewhere around there. And then, but here's the thing, like if you're looking at a $400 X870 versus a $300 X870E, most of the time it's going to be worth getting the cheaper X870E versus the more expensive X870 because you're gaining more lanes. That's literally all you're getting. So why not save money and get more lanes? So that's why the range on X870 is much smaller compared to X870E. And then B850, I barely pay attention to it, so I have no idea what the price range is. I'm going to say that the price range goes from like 120 to like 300, somewhere in there. I don't see a reason to consider B850s that are above $300. At that point, you should be looking at the other two. In the UK, the MSI Carbon is €400 or 400 pounds. Yeah, 400 pounds, that falls right into my range. Go with 10-year life. That is top shelf. What are we talking about? Clearance? What? 279 is the mid-range endurance. What? What are we talking about? Wi-Fi? Anyway, those are kind of the choices, right? And then, yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory when you look at it. Like, if you have a decent budget, you're probably best off with X870E. The other thing I'll say is if you're someone who wants to dabble in overclocking, I get this question sometimes, like, what type of motherboard should I get if I want to overclock my CPU? Technically, you can overclock your CPU on any motherboard. You can get the lowest end $120 special B850 and you can still overclock your motherboard or your CPU. However, there's a couple of things you need to be aware of. If you want to overclock your CPU, there's a couple of things you want to know. You want to get a motherboard. So if this is a motherboard, we'll just draw like, okay, imagine this is a motherboard. So the CPU socket is typically in the middle, like right here. You have the RAM. The RAM goes like here, right? The RAM typically goes there. And then you have your GPU would go like here or something or whatever. And then you have some other stuff that would go like down here. So the thing you want to be aware of when you're buying a motherboard with the intention to do overclocking, we're going to draw this in orange. The VRM is typically like here. It's like around the CPU on the opposite side of where the memory goes. So in orange, this is the VRM. You got the top VRM and the side VRM. If you want to overclock your CPU, just make sure that the motherboard you purchase has heat sinks on the VRM. Because these really cheap motherboards down here, some of them, they don't have proper heat sinks on the VRM. And oftentimes, the pre-builds, like if you buy a pre-build from Dell or HP or like some Lenovo Legion or something, some of those, if it's priced pretty cheap, like it's pretty, like if you're gonna buy like a Lenovo Legion gaming desktop for like $500 or $600 or whatever, like if it's that cheap, typically the VRM is not going to be adequately cooled or in good enough shape for long-term overclocking, for like a daily driver 24/7 overclock. You're gonna probably blow out a MOSFET at some point because it's probably not gonna have any heat sinks, or it's only gonna have like half of them have heat sinks or something like that. And if there's also probably no really good air cooling over here, especially if it's liquid cooled, because if it's liquid cooled, you have the fans typically up top here, and they're so far removed. So the VRM right here is typically going to become a hot spot because the GPU is radiating hot air like this, and this area is going to run really, really hot on the VRM. So you're going to blow out a MOSFET at some point. Obviously, it'll probably last for like 2 years, or it'll last past the warranty. Then once that warranty's over and you still run it with the overclock, you're probably going to blow out a MOSFET or something. So that's why I don't recommend cheap motherboards if you want to overclock your CPU. You definitely want, at the very least, you want a motherboard that has adequate cooling on the VRM so you don't overheat or cause... I say this, but I know that the VRM can take a lot of high temperatures and be totally fine. However, the thing that is never really talked about is the hot and cold cycle. So the heating and cooling of the VRM continuously. So if a VRM gets really hot and then goes really cold when you stop using the computer, and then you start using the computer and it goes really hot again, that continuous cycling of hot and cold, and the hot is like really hot and then the cold is like normal, that is going to cause it to wear down over time. Whereas if you have heat sinks on the VRM, that means the temperature range in terms of your normal baseline versus your hot temperature, the hot temperature is a lot lower, so your VRM might only get up to like, I don't know, like 60 degrees Celsius, 70 degrees Celsius with heat sinks. But without heat sinks, it's going to be like 99, 100 degrees Celsius. So if you're doing an extreme overclock, or not even an extreme overclock, just, no VRM heat sinks are going to result in those type of temperatures if you're doing overclocking with like load line or whatever. So that's the reason why, especially if you're running like PBO maxed out with the plus 200 megahertz and the 10x multiplier. So yeah, your VRMs are going to run kind of hot, and if you don't have heat sinks on, they're going to run really hot. So that's the reason why I don't recommend low-end motherboards for overclocking, even though technically you can do it. There's no restrictions, you can do it, but you have to understand that you're going to lower-end hardware is just going to wear out faster because it's not adequately cooled. And the old saying, you get what you pay for, applies in that scenario. You couldn't live with a motherboard without proper heat sinks? Alright, so that's something that probably no one ever even talks about. The hot and cold cycle of VRMs and how heat sinks protect them and prevent them from like dying prematurely. Alright, so that's one thing. So that kind of pushes you to the higher end motherboards. The other thing too is a lot of the overclocker motherboards have custom features on them, like for example, external clock generators. So you can run asynchronous clocking modes and things like that. So you can decouple your base clock and do base clock overclocking. This is especially useful if you're someone who is using an X3D CPU, because X3D CPUs are typically a lot more frequency constrained out of the box compared to their non-X3D counterparts. So if you have a X3D CPU and you want to try to push that thing to like 5.3, 5.4 gigahertz, or maybe even 5.5 gigahertz, if you're really, really lucky with the silicon lottery, the base clock functionality of asynchronous mode is very, very useful in that scenario. But this is a very niche corner case that we're describing here. But that is something that you typically will only find on higher end X870E motherboards. Okay. How do you feel about NZXT N9 X870E? I mean, it's good. If you like it, get it. It's made by ASRock. So for those of you that want to know, so there's NZXT, NZXT is actually ASRock in disguise. So if you like the NZXT motherboard and you like ASRock's BIOS, get the NZXT motherboard. So you have ASRock and NZXT, you have ASRock, you have ASUS, you have Gigabyte MSI. And you also have BioStar, and Sapphire used to make motherboards. In fact, I think they're going to make some motherboards, but they're coming back to motherboards, supposedly. EVGA left, Sapphire's like coming back. That's what I've heard. So these are kind of the motherboard brands in the DIY market. Of course, you have your Lenovo Legion, but you can't buy separate motherboards that are Legion motherboards. You have to buy like a pre-build if you want that. Same thing with Dell's Alienware and HP's Omen. Okay, so those are the brands. Just remove those. What do we want to do now? Let's discuss, I guess, the do we need to talk about memory ratios, or is everybody good on that? Because that is something that people always ask about that. Memory speeds are very easy to understand. You either, if you're running 4 sticks, you aim for 6,000, or, I mean, maybe 6,400 if you want. If you're on single rank, if you're on dual rank, you're going to be aiming for 5,600, maybe 6,000 if you really know what you're doing. Or if you're buying a specific memory kit that is designed to do 6,000 on this particular motherboard, but it has you on QVL list. So there's a lot of stuff involved with that. Okay, let's, what do I want to do here? You have any recommendation out of the 3 or 4 5090 cards? Probably PNY. If you're looking for MSRP, get a PNY. Don't get a Founders Edition, get a PNY. Sapphire made some motherboards. Yeah, I mean, Sapphire used to make motherboards a long time ago. So typically, so let's, what do you guys want? Do you want to go over a specific motherboard? Who here is interested in a certain motherboard? Do we need to do a breakdown of that motherboard? Do we need to cover Godlike? The Godlike Special from MSI. It's got a lot of USB, like a lot of USB. It's got a lot of USB-C. Dual LAN. One of them is 10 gig. From Marvell. Sapphire X870E Nitro Plus. Really? Sapphire X870E Nitro Plus. Yeah. Okay. Sapphire's making a motherboard. When was this? Was this shown? August 28th. Whoa, what? Oh yeah, Sapphire X870EA Wi-Fi Phantom Link Edition, which is their first high-end motherboard in years. The socket AM5 motherboard is based on the flagship X870E. There you go. They know what they're doing. And offers premium stuff. Other motherboards such as B850 Nitro Plus are also more budget friendly. Okay, so this one has the BTF connector right there. And it also has what looks like dual X8 Gen 5 and possibly a dedicated X4. It's either X4 or X2. And it looks like this is the Gen 5 Then they have 2 more here, and they have a 4th one down there. So it looks like 4 M.2 drives on this motherboard. BTF connector, postcode debug up in the top right, so it's got all the right things. It's got the start and reset button. If I didn't know any better, I would say that Sapphire is OEMing this from ASUS. This looks like an ASUS board. Is it me, or does that start and reset button literally look like the ones on the Crosshair Hero? That looks like it was taken straight from a Crosshair Hero. Although the debug panel looks like it was taken from an ASRock. So that looks like an ASRock style debug, and that looks like an ASUS start button. Man, this thing's got mishmash parts from all the boys. This has got like everybody's stuff on here. It's got the ASUS BTF connector. It's got it looks like the heatsink that they shaved this right off of a 7900 XTX Nitro Plus. 4 SATA. There's the right angled 3.0 connector. The down here is for the USB 2.0. They've got supplemental PCIe power. There's your 3.2 Gen 2x2. So it does seem to have all the stuff. The only thing, man, the disconnect thing on the motherboard literally looks like the ASUS one that scratches the graphics card. Wow, they sourced a bunch of parts from ASUS, man. This looks like it's an ASUS board. This looks like an ASUS board. It has the tab thing that looks like it's the one that scratches your GPU on the ASUS boards. The one where you lean the GPU and pull it up and it comes out. You know what I'm talking about? The ASUS quick disconnect. Because they got rid of the button. This thing looks like they just took an ASUS board and put a Nitro logo on it. This is just a Crosshair Hero in disguise. '80s color, but not retro in the good way. Wait, what? '80s style color? What? This looks like something out of Blade Runner. This is like a Blade Runner style motherboard. In the dust. Do they have anything from, like, Tokyo Game Show? Do you guys have, like, nothing on their site right now? Alright, go back to this. Yeah. Sapphire's motherboards are listed in Australia, apparently. But, guys, this is not new. Sapphire used to make motherboards a long time ago. Like, more than a decade ago at this point. And then they got out of that business for a while, and I guess now they're coming back. But I can tell they're sourcing a bunch of the same parts that ASUS uses. So if you like ASUS quality, Sapphire is basically the same quality. You're going to try to get the Micro Center. Micro Center has really good bundles already, though. You don't like the look of this motherboard? The thing about these motherboards, you have to remember that these type of... When they're at these events, the lighting does not do these motherboards justice. Or let me see, 70 Ace Max. No, that didn't really. I was hoping that they were gonna do. This doesn't tell me anything. All right, well, that's completely useless. So yeah, this. Well, these are different, so I don't know anymore. I don't know. Asus put this thing on like all of them. It looks like Sapphire is using the Asus thing on the top one. The one that scratches your GPU. Because it looks like they're just borrowing a bunch of parts from Asus to make this. That's the thing I just realized. Tokyo Game Show is not really big on computer hardware. They're more about like consoles and mobile games and stuff. Because it's mostly the Japan market. That's the emphasis. The PC gaming in Japan is really, really, really small in terms of the size and scope. So, Gamescom had a lot more stuff like this to show off last month. Because I was hoping maybe we would see some kind of hardware announcements. I mean, even like Microsoft with Asus, with the Xbox Ally X. When is that supposed to come out? Isn't that supposed to come out soon? Like, yeah, when does that even... Xbox Ally X. October. ROG Ally, Xbox Ally, launching October 16th. ROG Xbox Ally X. I don't know how I feel about this. I just feel like Xbox just OEMing the Ally from Asus and just calling it an Xbox. To me, this just seems so lazy. I don't know. It's like, hey, can we put the Xbox logo on your product and call it the Xbox? And Asus is like, yeah, sure. It makes you think of the Napoleon Dynamite movie, you know, where that one girl was trying to sell stuff to Napoleon and his friend. What was his, Pedro? And, or some, like, they were having this conversation where it's like, it was so nonchalant and they were just like super chill the whole time. They were talking like their eyes were barely even open. Like they were both about to fall asleep. It's like Xbox. I think Xbox and Asus are like Napoleon Dynamite and Pedro, when they were talking about like whatever. Like, you want to run for student council or something? And he's like, yeah, I don't know, maybe. It's like, yeah. It's like, hey, Asus, can you help me with something? Yeah, sure. What is it? Can I put my Xbox logo on the ROG Ally for real? And it's like, yeah, okay, go ahead. I don't care. It's fine. And that's exactly what this is, man. That's exactly what this feels like. When I saw this announced earlier this year, I was like, really? This is what you're doing, Microsoft? You're gonna stick the Xbox logo on the Ally X and the Ally and call it a day. It's like, I'm done. Next gen console. Here we go. That was so easy, guys. We got a next gen console. Like, really? Like, that's your strategy? Just stick your logo on like someone else's product? It's like, okay. Like, obviously there's some kind of partnership, like money wise, like ROG is gonna get like a big boost in brand recognition through this. Which is weird. That brings me to another point. There's like a lot of weird consolidation happening within the industry right now that could have detrimental effects on the PC gamers. The PC gamers are going to be the ones that probably get shafted and suffer the most from all of this, in ways that they aren't even aware of or probably even able to comprehend today. The only new handheld worth discussing is the GPD Win 5. This one? The GPD Win Max 5 boosts impressive FPS. AMD Strix. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. As soon as I saw AMD Strix Halo in the headline, I was like, yeah, okay, this thing's basically going to blow everything else out of the water. This is the thing that no one really talks about in the industry. The Strix Halo is probably the most impressive piece of technology to come out from a chip design and a silicon fabrication standpoint in probably the entire decade so far. Like, this thing is so unique. And, okay, maybe it's not super duper unique because Apple has been doing similar stuff for a while now. And we talked about this, I think, 2 weeks ago when we did the whole laptop special live stream. So, Strix Halo doesn't get enough media coverage. Like, this thing is very, very unique. It is a very special piece of silicon because this thing, the Strix Halo from AMD, it's basically showing the pinnacle of what you can do with x86 architecture and be able to match an ARM-based product. Now, it's not going to be as efficient as the ARM-based product, but it gets pretty close in terms of scale. Like, you scale the power down, it still performs real well. You scale the power up, and it performs significantly better than ARM. Like, if you were to scale ARM's power consumption up, it's not going to scale as well as the x86 Strix Halo APU. So this is a fantastic piece of silicon. This is like the best thing that I have seen from any chip design company to come out in a long time, because this thing, it can be used in thin and lights, it can be used in mini PC desktops, it can be used in basically any kind of form factor. It can fit into a lot of different segments in the consumer space. However, it being what it is expensive to produce. It is somewhat large in terms of the die size, so that means that the yields are going to be impacted negatively, potentially. And then also it means that it's going to be expensive to purchase because of the wafer cost. And as we know, AMD's biggest problem, AMD's Achilles heel, their weak point is that they can never get the sort of volume quantities required to make a significant impact in the markets that they compete in. And this is the reason why AMD has continued to trail behind Intel, even when AMD is objectively better. So this is a very significant point that I want to emphasize. When AMD is winning, Intel is still ahead. When Intel is winning, the entire industry is kind of screwed, because we've seen what happens when Intel's in the lead. You get a lot of stagnation. You get your quad-core slop every year. You know, that's how it was for like 5+ years. And everyone seemed to have accepted that as their fate in the PC DIY space. Then AMD came back with Ryzen, basically flipped the script on all of that, and then we got like a war between Intel and AMD where they kept leapfrogging each other every 2 years, you know, like Zen 1, then Coffee Lake, then Zen 2, then Comet Lake, then Zen 3, then Rocket Lake was kind of a fail, but we kind of know what happened there. Then Alder Lake, double launch, so you had 11 and 12, because 11 and 12. Then AMD did Zen 4. Then Intel brought out 13th gen Raptor Lake, and then you had Raptor Lake Refresh, which had the voltage problem, and a bunch of those CPUs died prematurely. And then you had Zen 5 last year, and now you have Arrow Lake from Intel. So they kind of like go back and forth. So you have a lot of innovation. When AMD is strong, the industry seems to be in a better spot than when AMD is weak. Now, when Intel is strong or weak, from my own observation, there is really no difference. Like when Intel's winning, then you're either going to be suffering or you're going to be like, you know, it's okay. But at the end of the day, like nothing really changes that significantly. Because what did we get? What did we get in the past decade when you had Intel and you had like nothing else? What did we get? We got a quad core with hyperthreading. In 2011, we got Sandy Bridge. Then in 2012, what did we get? Oh, another quad core with hyperthreading. Ivy Bridge, 3rd gen. Then what did we get in 2013? Oh, guess what? Another quad core with hyperthreading. Haswell, 4th gen. i7, 4770K. Then what did you get in 2014? You got absolutely nothing. All they did was copy paste and call it Devil's Canyon, 4790K. Same exact thing. Same exact architecture. Everything's the same. Oh, sell everybody a bunch of new motherboards just because, even though it's the exact same chip. All right, then what do we get in 2015? Oh, I don't know. Maybe another quad core with hyperthreading. Oh, Skylake is here. 6th gen. The 6700K. Then what do we get in 2017? Cabby Lake. Another quad core. i7 7700K. But then you know what happened 2 months after that came out? Ryzen showed up. And then you know what happened at the end of that year? Intel's like, launch a 6-core. Launch a 6-core. Launch the 8700K. Just launch the 8700K. Do something. Put the 8700K out there in the consumer market. And they're like, why? Just put it out. Just put it out. So you got i7 8700K. And all of a sudden, whoa, it's a 6-core. It's a 6-core. Whoa. Who would have thought Intel can actually do 6 cores? I never would have expected them to do this. So, and Intel was still winning at that time. Intel was still faster in terms of IPC. But what I'm saying is you actually had them do something for once. So right now, AMD, with stuff like Strix Halo and the X3D stuff like this, they're actually in the lead. So they're actually the better choice for gamers, not even just gamers, basically for anyone who's building any sort of desktop-based computer. Now in the laptop space, Intel is a lot more competitive with AMD. And we talked about that 2 weeks ago on episode 125. So Intel is quite strong in the laptop space. And they kind of have to be if they want to stay relevant in the consumer space long term. However, like I said at the beginning of this discussion, Intel's strength is AMD's weakness. Meaning, AMD is never able to secure enough volume from TSMC. They can never seem to get enough wafers from TSMC, which basically kneecaps their capability in terms of the sort of products that they can sell, the sort of volumes. Because what happens, and a lot of the gamers, the PC gamers, the PC enthusiasts, a lot of people like that don't understand why this happens. A lot of people think, oh, Intel is paying off companies to like prevent AMD from. That may have been true in the past, but as far as I know, the reality is that AMD can't secure significant quantity of these chips, and as a result, they'll not win enough design wins from the OEMs and the ODMs. So companies like Lenovo, HP, Dell, Asus, basically anyone who makes a laptop, anyone who sells consumer electronic devices that are dependent on a CPU and maybe a GPU as an option, they're not gonna pretend. They're going to like prefer to go with Intel because Intel can provide the volume quantity of chips that they want at certain discounted ratios. Remember, guys, the more you buy, the more you save. The more you buy, the more you save. The more you buy, the more you save. The more you buy, the more. So that is very, very true. Because if I buy like 50,000, if I buy 50,000 chips, CPUs from either AMD or Intel for a laptop that I want to sell. Like, let's say I am Lenovo Legion product manager and I want to choose a CPU for my gaming Legion laptop. What am I going to do? And I want to order, let's say I want to put orders in for 50,000 CPUs for a given laptop, like the Legion 5 Pro. Legion 5 Pro. It doesn't have to be that one. I'm just using this as an example. And if I want 50, maybe I should be using Paint, man. Why am I not using Paint right now? So, Legion, Lenovo Legion 5 Pro. 16-inch laptop. Actually, is that right? Lenovo Legion 7 Pro. I don't even know, man. I don't keep up with these things. Well, let's just say Legion 5 Pro, whatever. Legion 5 Pro. And I need a CPU. I need to order 50,000 CPUs from whoever. It can be, okay, you're saying 5 million? 5 million? I don't think they're going to sell 5 million Legion 5s. You're talking about for the entire product stack. I'm talking about for a specific SKU. They're not going to do 5 million in Legion 5 Pros. I can guarantee you that. But let's say 50,000 CPUs. Or whatever. Okay, let's say 250,000 CPUs. 250,000 CPUs for the Legion 5, Legion 5 Pro, Legion 5 non-pro. Either one, doesn't matter. You're going to do 250,000 CPUs. This is for like one region, right? Like this might be for the China region, this might be for the US region. It doesn't matter. It could be the EU region, whatever. They go to Intel or they go to AMD. Like go to AMD. AMD will bid or they'll quote. AMD will quote, you know, some amount of money for that bulk order. It's like, okay, you want to buy 250,000 CPUs. This is how much. Okay, you want to buy. We'll quote, you know, like 250,000. I don't know, Ryzen AI 9. What is it? Ryzen 9? Is it Ryzen AI? Man, Ryzen AI 9 HX 370. You know, so this or whatever. It doesn't have to be that. It could be like a mix of that plus the other ones. We'll just say like quoting 250,000 of this. Okay, that will cost, you know, like at some dollar amount. Some dollar amount. Then they go to Intel. Intel will quote 250,000 Core Ultra 9. What is the actual SKU? Like 2. Okay, yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I'm trying to understand what happened just now. Let me see, but I should be back. You guys we should be back up. I don't know what happened though. Let me see. Dude, all I know is ever since we swapped to that Intel GPU, been having these weird problems because this is the second time something like this happened to me with this computer. I think this happened to me when we were streaming Silent Hill F. So I'm trying to check why, like, what happened. I know you guys can see me. Just trying to figure out, like, what exactly happened. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into this, like, some other time. This is the second time that we had this, no, we're using one Intel. So we're using one Intel professional GPU, and then I'm using a 7900 XTX. But the only time this started happening was when I swapped to that Intel GPU. But the previous Intel GPU was fine. I was using the Intel A380. I swapped to the Intel Arc Pro B50. And ever since I've swapped to that GPU, occasionally we'll get this problem where basically the entire computer just crashes. What happened right there, guys, was my computer literally just rebooted. It just completely crashed and restarted. Like, all the monitors went black, and then it rebooted and just came back up. So I don't know. Like, this is the second time this happened to me. This happened to me when we were streaming Fatal Frame F on Tuesday. And the only thing I could think of is we were using the Intel GPU to encode one of the things. Like, I'm locally recording, unless it's the hard drive that it's writing to, but normally I would assume I would get some kind of, like, error message, or the video file being written to would just be corrupted. So I don't know if it's a hard drive problem. I highly doubt it, because the hard drive's been in here forever and it's been fine. I kind of suspect that there might be a GPU problem, maybe a driver problem. I don't know. Like, it's weird. But I went to the Intel Pro GPU. Here, I'll just show you guys the task manager. You can see the Intel Arc Pro B50. Those of you who are members, if you watched the latest member video, you would have seen this GPU in action, like down there. It's like underneath the other card, the Radeon card. So the AMD Radeon, this is also encoding the stream, but you know, I've used this card I've had this card since, like, what, March of 2023. And I've never had any problems with it, so I can't really put the blame on the AMD card, because the AMD card's literally just worked forever, and we've never had this problem. The only thing that changed in this computer was I removed my Intel A380, and I upgraded it to a Pro B50. The Pro B50 is nice because it doesn't have a PCIe power cable. So I don't have to run a PCI power cable to this. There's no 8-pin power cable. It just runs off the motherboard. And it has 16 gigabytes of VRAM. So I like that it has 16 gigs of VRAM, and it doesn't require a power cable. It just runs off the motherboard. So I figured, you know, this is better to use than the A380. But I may have to do some testing. If this crashes on me again, I'm going to have to take this GPU out and put the A380 back in and see if the A380 doesn't have the problem. Because this is unacceptable. I can't have this happening while trying to host the Tech Thursday show. So that is really, really bad. But anyway, we're using this to do, let me see. One of the GPUs is streaming to YouTube. So Intel using HEVC is live streaming. The AMD graphics card is using AV1 encoding to my local hard drive. So the AMD GPU is using AV1 to write a local file. So I have a backup. Basically, I'll have a recorded copy of Tech Thursdays. That way, like if there's a really good segment that I want to turn into a separate video, I can edit that. I can cut that and put that as a separate video. So we're using AV1 off of AMD to do that because that results in very, very small file sizes. This one is streaming to the internet using not AV1. It could use AV1, but it's using HEVC. The internet doesn't like AV1 for some reason because it varies the bandwidth, or it varies the bit rate, which causes it to vary the bandwidth. So that's why HEVC is what I use for live streaming, not AV1. I use AV1 for local record. I use HEVC for actual internet streaming. So anyway, that's what we're using. We're using the AMD Ryzen 9 9950X 16 core with 96 gigabytes of RAM, 6400 mega transfers, 4 sticks of RAM. So you guys are very familiar with this computer. This is the Tech Thursdays computer. This computer has been the Tech Thursdays computer since like May of this year. And we have never had any of these stability problems until I put this GPU in. So there's something weird going on. I'm probably going to try... It is on the latest driver as far as I know. I might try just uninstalling the driver. I mean, I did an express upgrade from the old one to the new one, and it went fine, so I don't know what's going on. I may just have to uninstall the whole driver and redo the whole driver. But yeah, I don't know why that happened with it crashing. I mean, I don't even know. Like, the only thing I know is this is the one thing that changed, and now we have a problem. So it kind of puts the blame on this by process of elimination. Anyway, what were we talking about before the computer crashed unexpectedly? I don't even know what we were talking about. We were talking about like AMD and how they can't buy enough chips from TSMC, which means that they can't fulfill the quantities at certain price discount percentages compared to Intel. And that's kind of why Intel continues to dominate at least in the mobile PC space. But Intel is not outselling AMD in desktop. I would assume AMD is outselling Intel in the desktop space. In client desktop, I think AMD outsells Intel. But I think, and I don't know how it is globally. Globally, it might be different. All I know is in the North American market, Ryzen is outselling Intel Core Ultra in the client desktop. In the laptop space, though, Intel is far ahead of AMD. And I suspect, in terms of market share, Intel is going to gain market share in the... Well, I don't even know if they're going to gain. They're either going to gain or nothing's going to change in the laptop space for mobile. Yeah, Ryzen... So we were talking about pricing and stuff and, like, the difference there. But the reason why Intel continues to dominate in the market share percentage is mainly because they can hit the volume targets that their customers require. And that's what I was just trying to say with Paint. But, I mean, I don't think it's some kind of weird, like, conspiracy where Intel is, like, paying these vendors to not sell AMD CPUs with their laptops. I don't believe that. I'm not someone who believes that. I know some people have their conspiracy hats and like, no, Intel's paying off people to sabotage AMD. I don't think that's true. I think it's because Intel's able to just sell more chips. Like if somebody needs like 500,000 chips, you know, like a certain SKU, like they need Ultra 7s or Ultra 9s, I think Intel's able to deliver in the mobile space. Intel outsold AMD in desktop 4-1 in the last month on the channel. How are you even seeing this though? Like, are you talking about global? Are you talking about global? Because that does not seem true at all from what I've observed. Intel outselling AMD in desktop. But I don't. What is liquid? I don't know what that means, dude. Liquid ASTI, and I don't know what that means. And I'm pretty sure other people in the chat also have no idea what that means. Back to Alder. Not after December. Intel's not outselling AMD in desktop. Not today. Maybe they were like last year, but they're not outselling them this year. I can tell you that. In laptops, they are outselling them by a lot. But they've always been that way. That's never changed. And that's probably not going to change. Well, because the computer crashed, I lost my paint thing. So that whole thing that we had written up about the chipset stuff, that's all gone, unfortunately. What are we talking about? I'm not talking about lease. I'm talking about separate chip. You're talking about like selling to Dell and HP. Probably. Who's buying desktops? Well, I guess some companies still do. Most companies don't buy desktops though. They buy laptops. They buy workstation laptops for their employees. And the employees plug those into docking stations. The only people that I can think of that would buy or lease a desktop are people who are in, like, I don't know, post-production film or something. But those wouldn't be 14th gen. Those would be like Threadripper or Xeon. OEM still if you're sitting on the... I'm not talking about 14. I'm not talking about Alder Lake and Raptor Lake. I'm talking about... Dude, you have to look at the number. Alder only include Arrow Lake compared to Zen 5. Forget about 14, 13, 12. All that stuff doesn't count because all that stuff's been sitting in the channel forever. Even though I think they still manufacture 12th gen. No, what I want to see is Arrow Lake only compared to Zen 5. I don't want to see Zen 4. I don't want to see Zen 3. I don't want to see 14, 13, 12. No, none of that stuff. None of that stuff counts in my book. Those might count like in total, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like current generation only. So if you filter out all those old CPUs from like 3 years ago, how long is, like, Alder Lake is what, 4 years old? Like 4 years, 3 years. Zen 4 is 3 years old. Yeah, remove all that stuff. And then what do you get? No, I don't care about the total market share. What I'm talking about is Arrow Lake volume sold versus Zen 5. And we're only talking about desktop. We're not talking about laptops. We're not talking about mobile stuff. We're not talking about handhelds. None of that. We're talking purely desktop. So that means Zen 5 and Arrow Lake. Only these two. I don't want numbers for 14, 13, 12, Zen 3, Zen 4. No, I don't care about any of those numbers. Those are all irrelevant. You know why? Because those are not showing futures. Those are like your heavy discount stuff. Is what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. All I'm saying is in client desktop today, in PC DIY segment, this is selling more than this. That's all I'm saying. And I'm pretty sure that's an accurate statement. I don't care how much 14th gen or Zen 4 or all the old DDR4 CPUs. I don't care about any of that stuff. That is completely irrelevant here. So, yeah. So the point is, Zen 5 is outselling Arrow Lake in desktop. However, in the laptop space, Arrow Lake is going to outsell Zen 5. In fact, it already is. It already is. I'm sure of it. I'm almost 100% certain that Arrow Lake Mobile is going to outsell the Zen 5 mobile parts. Now, Zen 5, the weird thing about Zen 5 in mobile is Zen 5 has been in mobile for a long time. Like, this has gone through the channel way longer than Arrow Lake has been in the channel, because for whatever reason, and I think it was a knee-jerk reaction to the Snapdragon Elite stuff that came out last summer, like 2024, AMD decided to launch Strix Point way early. And then Intel had like Lunar Lake at the end of last year. Lunar Lake is like whatever, that's kind of like thin and light. It's a certain SKU, it's a certain segment, but it's not really going to deliver on high performance. So Lunar Lake doesn't really count either. Lunar Lake is like Strix Halo. It's like low volume, kind of like in its own little world. It's kind of like a proof of concept thing. The real deal is going to be Zen 5 versus Arrow Lake. Like, these are the two rival CPUs. So think about that for a second. Like, this is current generation. Current generation. Now, I haven't heard anything recently, but I would assume Intel will refresh their desktop Arrow Lake platform real soon. Like either in October, which is literally a few days from now, or in November. But I can almost pretty much assume with high probability that there will be an Arrow Lake refresh. Now, I don't know for sure. I don't know 100%, but I would assume that there will be an Arrow Lake 300 series refresh for desktop that will come out sometime in Q4. But in terms of Zen 5, AMD is going to sit on Zen 5 for a while. Like, there's going to be nothing new from AMD for a fairly long time, because AMD operates more on almost like a 24-month schedule, whereas Intel launches on an annual schedule. So I guess this kind of brings us to the next part of this discussion, which is going to be the time frames. So like if we take 2022 here, 2022, 23, 24, 25, so this year, and then next year. So 2022, you had, and we'll do the colors, you had Zen 4, and you had 13th gen. So 3 years ago, you had Zen 4 and 13th gen. You had Raptor Lake and Zen 4. Then what did we get in 2023? So some might say, oh, well, we got X3D. We got Zen 4 X3D, which is true. And what did we get from Intel that year? But the thing is, this came pretty early. Like, this was like first half. This was like the very end of Q. This was literally 3 years ago. It was like the end of September of that year. This was like the first, it was like February and April for the X3D. So you didn't have to wait too long. But Intel is very consistent with their launch cadence. Like, they'll do a new CPU every year, even if the CPU is just a refresh. So in fact, I shouldn't even call this 13th gen. I should use the real name. Raptor Lake S. And then here, you got Zen 4 X3D in first half. Like in like Q1 and the start of Q2 of that year. But what do we get a year after Raptor Lake S? We got Raptor Lake Refresh. You got Raptor Lake Refresh, aka 14th gen. So 14th gen is already 2 years old at this point. But it's the same, it's like, you know, it's kind of in the same age range as Zen 4 X3D. Last year, you guys know what we got. Zen 5. And then Intel's Arrow Lake. So, the point that I'm making is you can see that AMD operates on a clearly defined... I should have probably gone back to 2020, because 2020 would make it even more visible, because it would have shown Zen 3. So 2020 was Zen 3. 2 years later, 2022, Zen 4. 2 years later, 2024, Zen 5. And then 2 years later after that, next year, Zen 6. So what do we get this year? Zen 5 X3D. And we will get from Intel Arrow Lake S Refresh this year. So the next year, we will get, as expected, Zen 6. And now this is where I kind of forget what the name is. We're going to get, I think Nova Lake S is the name of Intel's. I think Panther Lake is like a mobile only thing, although I could be wrong. So, this is the timeline. So for this year, we are currently in the year 2025. So, the only CPU that remains to see is Arrow Lake Refresh. But Arrow Lake Refresh is literally copy-paste. Because remember, 14th gen was a copy-paste of 13th gen. So, if we ignore X3D for a second, pretend this doesn't exist, and the reason why I'm saying that is because the X3D is typically like it's anywhere from 4 to 6 months after the initial launch. Meaning you don't have to wait a whole year. But with Intel, you have to wait a whole year. Because this was October 2022. This was October 2023. This was October of last year. This will most likely be next month. So Intel launches every single year in the same kind of quarter, give or take. They don't really deviate from that. It's been like that for a very, very long time. AMD will launch typically in a Q3. So that will be usually September. We got this in September. We got this in, well, I said Q3. So Q3, it's more variable than Intel. Intel's typically always October. They've been October for like many, many years now. But AMD, this was September. This was August of last year. So Zen 6 will be the same deal. Zen 6 will probably be August or September, sometime in Q3 of next year. We will see the Zen 6 CPU. So it is well understood. This is well understood. So, yeah, this is basically the time frame. You go further back, we fill this out, you're going to see, like, if I go way back, 2021. Oh boy, we got these guys in the way. But this is only going to further illustrate what I'm saying, right? Like 2020, the pandemic was 2020 and 2021, and the first part of 2022. This is all pandemic. This is known as the dark times for PC hardware, the pandemic era. So now we're going back into the pandemic era. Well, what did you get in the year 2020? Everybody knows. Zen 3. And then you got Comet Lake. 10th gen Intel. And then what do you get in 2021? 2021, Rocket Lake, Alder Lake, double launch, panic mode. 2 generations in 1 year. And no AMD CPU. So this actually helps further emphasize this point. Because you have Zen 3, 2 years later, Zen 4, 2 years later, Zen 5, 2 years later, Zen 6. 24 months. 24 months. Every 24 months. So the conclusion is AMD operates on a 24-month cadence for their CPU launch cycle. You don't need anyone who talks about hardware leaks to understand this. All you have to do is study the history and understand how to recognize patterns. People who have to rely on leaks are people who do not know how to use the stock market. I'm just saying, like, just FYI. Because if you can't look at patterns, if you can't understand pattern recognition, then I don't know what to tell you. Right? I'm just saying. So just from this data, I can conclude AMD operates on a 24-month cadence for their CPU cycle. And Intel, from this data, Intel also operates on a 24-month cadence. It's the same. Why? Because all these refresh things are literally just for the shareholders to... Basically, all this stuff that you see here... Refresh. We're about to get another refresh. You know, like, okay, this was kind of awkward, but, you know... they're doing this because of the shareholders. They have to put something out in the market to kind of, like, drive up interest in the brand, you know, like keep things fresh, keep it going, even though it's literally a copy paste and a minor revision to what is effectively the exact same architecture, the exact same product under the hood. So, I mean, this goes as far back as like back when they were doing the TikTok thing, you know, Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge were basically the same thing. Haswell and Broadwell were basically the same thing. Skylake and Kaby Lake were basically the same thing. So you get this cycle where it's like you get one new thing and then you get like a copy paste slop of the same exact thing the following year. So, what we can conclude, if we ignore the refreshes, Intel also somewhat can be looked at as operating on a 24-month schedule. Now, I know they're a little bit more confusing because they did weird things like launch Comet Lake, and then the next year they launched Rocket Lake, and it was so bad that they launched Alder Lake in the exact same year, and these are fundamentally different things. Rocket Lake was basically Alder Lake backported to 14 nanometer plus at that point. So this is like, oh boy, this is showing that they've got some kind of issues going on with their fabs at that point. They're having some kind of struggle. But that's what that shows, right? Like, that's what's going to show to shareholders that something is awkward here. But they were able to kind of... They're able, with Alder Lake, they were able to recover from that fumble. If we're talking football, they fumbled with Rocket Lake pretty badly, but, you know, they recovered later in the same year with Alder Lake. So they were able to fix that up pretty good. All right. Okay, so it's every 2 years. And this is why if you're somebody who is interested in building a computer, well, it's kind of weird with X3D. X3D is really, really strange because you also got like this year, that year. The one thing I didn't mention was Zen 3 X3D. That was also this year. That was like the first, that was like earlier in that year. So there was also that. I mean, that was kind of also in this year. So the first part of this decade, like the first 3 years of this decade were kind of like really, really wonky because you had like somebody goes and like double launches in the same year. Somebody goes and puts like a fundamentally new technology out there in the market called X3D, and then they go and launch a brand new generation later in the year. So you had a lot of interesting stuff happen, but this is known as the pandemic era of time in the history. So lots of weird stuff happened in that era. That's the reason why you can still see the pattern if you look at it. You can still see that 2-year cadence even within the pandemic. Although it is harder to see because there's like all this other random stuff in there. I can't believe Intel launched like 3 CPU generations during the pandemic. That is wild to me, but yeah, okay. All right, I didn't notice. So what are we talking about? '13 and 14 gen are the same thing. Okay, what? AMD at least gives you better performance every time, and efficiency. Intel are just a number change. There isn't really much of an advantage to it anymore, as far as I know, because they all basically do the exact same thing. But I need to figure out why the computer had that problem, and I suspect that it might be something with that GPU. Because that's the only thing that changed. All right, well, guys, I guess we're kind of, how long do we, okay, I lost track of the total time because of that restart. Okay, so we've done like almost 2.5 hours. Do we still think that the Intel Arc B770 will release, since we know it's going to be around 7800 XT? I don't know. Do we know how much RAM that's supposed to have? I kind of lost interest in that because when it came to Intel's GPUs, I was only really considering them as secondary GPUs for doing exactly what I'm doing right now. But I like that the lower end ones don't require PCI power cables. So I'm not really super interested in that GPU. I mean, that GPU is already like super outdated. You know what I mean? Like, what did I say? I said RTX 4070, right? Like, this is what I said a long time ago. I said this is the performance of Intel's next gen GPU. And you're saying like 3080. Is that what this is? Yeah, this is literally very much like a 3080 in terms of the performance. The RTX 4070 is like a 3080. So yeah, that's what I said, and I stand by that. Remember, guys, I said the best Intel will be able to do with their GPU will be around an RTX 4070. There's literally multiple live streams from last year of me saying this. 16 gigabytes. Yeah, so it will. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not super interested in that. Like, I like the GPU that I have, the Pro B50. This one. I like this one, which we've done videos on, because 16 gigs and no power cable. 16 gigs and you do not have to connect a PCI power cable, and it's like it's low profile. So it doesn't block the fans of the larger GPU that typically goes above it. So I don't know. This is the sort of GPU that I like from Intel. I don't really... They can do a higher end one if they want. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get it. I don't really need it. But it'll probably be somewhere around this. Yeah, you have the launch A770. Intel is only Intel's. Intel what? All right, so I don't know what else you're going to talk about. Like, we basically already covered all the stuff from TGS. We were supposed to talk about motherboards, but the problem is, like, MSI doesn't even have the product pages for their new motherboards. So it's like I can't even really do any sort of deep dive on any of these things because I don't have any of the I don't have any of the details, the official details. I would assume that they're basically the same as the existing ones. It's just they probably have different PCIe slot layouts and things like that, and yeah, I don't know. Like, the Ace is new. The rest of them, I don't know. Like, I don't think they're really... Like, Carbon Max is probably going to be very, very similar to the existing Carbon. So, Asus, as far as I know, they already put out their new motherboard. So, there's nothing to talk about from Asus. The ASRock motherboards are just like the MSI ones. Like, I don't know where they are. Like, we kind of saw them a few months ago, back at the beginning of the summer, and then they just kind of disappeared. And here we are, and we're about to go into Q4, and nothing. So it's like, I don't know what's going on. I would assume that we're gonna hear about new Intel motherboards soon because of the Arrow Lake refresh. So maybe the new AMD boards will show up when the new Intel boards show up. Maybe that's what everybody's waiting on. I don't understand why they wait for the Intel ones to sell you AMD motherboards. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't know. Maybe that's what's going on, though. But I'm kind of disappointed in a lot of these motherboard companies because you never hear, like, you don't hear anything out of them after Gamescom, or Computex. Computex, they showed a bunch of stuff. Gamescom, some of them showed stuff, and then they just kind of all went quiet, and it's like, here we are. TGS is happening, like, literally right now, but they have nothing to show. Back to the third week of October of last year. Isn't Granite Rapids an Intel thing? You mean Granite Ridge? Not Granite Rapids. Granite Rapids is Intel. Granite Ridge is... Or do I have that backwards? No, I'm pretty sure Granite Ridge is AMD. You meant Granite Ridge, but I get it. So you're saying back to October of last year... Granite Ridge was 40%, Arrow Lake was 60%, and pushing back R9 into... I don't know what those numbers mean, though. Like 8.3, I don't know what that means. 8.3%? AMD plus 1% to 61%. What? Like used what? Man, there's like there's like sidebar conversations going on. What I will say is I don't think anything is really going to change in terms of the industry. In fact, there's kind of a bad trend happening right now where we're seeing a lot of consolidation take place. And that might be a bad thing for the consumers. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years. But there's too much. There's a lack. We're starting to see stagnation creep in again because of the limits of physics. So there's talk of quantum computing. There's a bunch of research and development in that area. In the background, there was like the whole looming threat of ARM taking over and x86 going away, but it seems like that's not going to happen, at least not going to happen anytime soon. But yeah. Well, no, but see, here's the thing, though. Remember that we're only talking about client desktop. We're not talking about mobile. We're not talking about the total TAM on the consumer client PC space, right? So, yeah, it's like AMD is outselling Intel in one area. But this brings me to this is a great segue though. So like AMD is also kind of enjoying a monopoly in the handheld space, which is okay, this is the thing about the handheld space. So Steam Deck, Nintendo Switch 2, Legion Go, MSI Claw, the ROG Ally, all these handhelds that have popped up in the last like 3 years or so, they're all basically, except for the Switch 2, which literally came out a few months ago, every single one of these handhelds are all AMD based. So if you treat that as a specific market segment, AMD basically has a monopoly in that space because there's literally like no one else. Like there was that one Intel MSI Claw that was so bad that, you know, like I don't know, MSI probably sold like 2 of those max or whatever. So AMD has enjoyed a lot of market share, market penetration in that sector. However, they're not the only one there, because you have to remember the Nintendo Switch 2 and the Switch 1 are also technically in the handheld gaming market. And the handhelds from Nintendo are using NVIDIA SoCs. So NVIDIA is also in the handheld market space. Not just AMD. But AMD has like all the Steam and all the Windows-based stuff. Whether it's the Z2 Extreme and the Z1, and then like all those mobile laptop chips that they put in handhelds, and then like the one with the Strix Halo that we were talking about earlier. So because of this, NVIDIA, I don't think this is the only reason, but NVIDIA has invested. I don't know what all the reasons are. Like this was very, very fascinating to me earlier this week. So actually that's probably the last thing we'll talk about is NVIDIA invests in Intel. Yeah, this is probably the biggest article in the tech space that we probably do need to talk about. So NVIDIA invested $5 billion worth of Intel. So the goal behind this, as far as I can tell, now I don't know if this is the real reason, but the goal is to try to get 2 verticals. And they even mentioned it in this article, so I'll just read the article. So the goal of this collaboration is split into 2, just like I said. One, and perhaps the most interesting one, is the integration of the NVIDIA RTX GPUs inside Intel x86 system on chips, which Intel's own ARC GPUs previously powered. Ooh, that's not good for Intel ARC GPU development. All right, Intel once even considered tapping AMD with its Kaby Lake G design. That was a long time ago, which never progressed beyond Generation 1. Now, I can tell you why this is happening, guys. I can tell you why this is happening. This is happening partially due to market reasons that we can probably try to explain on this stream. One of them is the fact that I just mentioned. AMD has like all of the Windows and Linux-based handhelds that are not Nintendo-based. So AMD literally has like 100% market share in that if you ignore Nintendo, which I wouldn't do. But there may be some opportunity of growing there, but that is not the reason. That is not like the primary reason or the only reason why this is happening. One of the reasons is because a lot of the people that are currently in charge of Intel's own ARC GPUs used to work at NVIDIA. They used to work for NVIDIA. We all know Tom Peterson. There's another guy that went over to Intel earlier this year who used to be at NVIDIA doing their gaming segment GPUs. I forget his name right now. But he's also at Intel now. Intel basically poached a whole bunch of NVIDIA's talent over the years. And stepping back here for a second, talking about this thing with AMD with the Kaby Lake G, this was back in like 2016, 2015, like a decade ago almost was when this project was developed. And then it came to market, I think, in like 2017. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2017, 2018 Kaby Lake G. So this is like a long time ago. But this was a collaboration between Raja Koduri, back when he was at AMD, and the Intel people. So then you guys remember what happened at the end of 2017 after the launch of the Vega 64 and the Vega 56. Raja went on sabbatical from AMD. And then, like a month or two later, it was announced that he was joining Intel. So he went to Intel and started working on the ARC GPUs. So the history of Intel's discrete GPUs from the last recent number of years here, they started based off of Raja Koduri working with Tom Peterson. So you had the guy from AMD and the guy from NVIDIA, fusion dance, Dragon Ball Z style. You literally have Goku from AMD and Vegeta from, well, his color's not really green, so I don't know. But anyway, you guys get what I'm saying. You had the Raja, you had the Tom, you had the fusion of the AMD Radeon and the GeForce. And what do you get? When you do Radeon plus GeForce, you get Intel Arc GPU A770 in 2022. After 5 years, 5 years in the hyperbolic time chamber, they created the Arc GPU. The Alchemist GPU. The fusion was complete. And then you know what happened? Raja left Intel. He's like, I'm done. I'm going to do the next thing. He's literally like Mary Poppins. You know, like the wind changed. It's time for me to go. So he whips out his umbrella and he just flies away from Intel, going off to his next journey. Whatever. I'm out. Bye, everybody. That was Raja back in 2022. He pulled a Mary Poppins and just like flew away. Okay? So he was gone. Tom Peterson has always been there. He's been there for like a number of years now. And he helped build up that team. So when Raja was out, the remaining people, the remnants of the Intel Arc team, guess what they started doing? They started recruiting people from the NVIDIA. They started going to NVIDIA employees and like, hey, why do you want to work for NVIDIA? That company is like so lame. Come work for Intel. We're so much cooler. Like, why do you want to... Who would want to work for NVIDIA, man? Come work at Intel. It's like way cool. Be a cool kid. Don't work for some loser company like NVIDIA. Come work for Intel. So guess what? Some of those people, they actually... they took them up on the offer. They went over to Intel and they started working at Intel. They got that one guy there now. And guess what? These people, they know the people who they used to work with at the NVIDIA who are still at the NVIDIA. So you've got this thing where it's like, you've got people working for Intel who used to work for NVIDIA, and they know a bunch of people that they used to work with that still work at NVIDIA. So what do you think is going to happen? They still talk with each other. They still hang out with each other. So it's like now, what do you get? You get technical teams that know each other but work for two different companies. So hence you get this sort of thing that can eventually happen. So that's one of the underlying reasons that pretty much no one is aware of. The fact that, well, okay, maybe some analysts, if they dig deep enough, they'll figure that out. But, you know, you can put two and two together and figure, okay, this guy used to work at Intel and he knows all these guys. Oh no, this guy used to work at NVIDIA and he knows all these guys that still work at NVIDIA. He's going to try to poach those guys because he's like, he got promoted to like, you know, senior manager level, or maybe he's a director now. So he needs to hire all the people. And guess what? He's going to go to NVIDIA and poach all the people because he knows he needs to build up a competent team and he used to work with those guys. So this is part of the reason why this is happening. From a development standpoint, the collaboration will go very smoothly for the reasons I just mentioned. However, what this also means is that Intel Arc will may be heavily reduced in terms of its roadmap. Like, it might get run over by the NVIDIA collaboration. We'll see. I don't know. Only time will tell what will happen there. Now, I have no idea what the plans are. All I know is NVIDIA wants access to x86. NVIDIA tried to buy ARM. That didn't work. It was blocked by the governments. So they're like, okay, well, now what do we do? Okay, get x86. They wanted access to this because there's no way NVIDIA can get a license for x86. I personally don't understand why, to this day, AMD is literally the only company that was allowed to get a cross-license agreement with Intel for x86. I do not understand the reasons why no one else has been allowed to do this. But NVIDIA probably figured, hey, we kind of need x86 if we want to scale up and scale out. Because, you know, you saw all the memes: scale up, scale out, scale up, scale up, scale up, scale out, scale up, scale out, scale up. So because of that, they were like, well, who do we go with? It's like, do we want to, we can either go with AMD or we can go with Intel. And it's like, who is more of a threat to NVIDIA? Well, if this was like 6 years ago, NVIDIA would probably see Intel as the greater threat. But because Intel has kind of floundered recently, they see AMD probably as a more competent competitor. So they're going to go with Intel because it gives them some advantages. One is Intel has a foundry. So if Intel can finally sort out whatever sort of problems they're having with their fabrication issues, maybe NVIDIA could use Intel in the future to build their chips. And that would help reduce a lot of problems with supply constraints, because everybody's kind of bottlenecked through TSMC. So NVIDIA wouldn't have to compete so much with Apple and everyone else who is in line to buy TSMC wafers. So that's another reason why there's a potential there. But at this point in time, NVIDIA is not focused on the Intel fabs. They're really just focused on getting access to x86 integration for their data center stuff. And this can eventually manifest as other interesting developments, such as a Strix Halo competitor. Intel and NVIDIA could, I've heard a lot of people say this. It's like, well, Intel and NVIDIA could combine their forces and create something comparable to AMD's Strix Halo. Because Strix Halo, like I said earlier in the stream, Strix Halo is a really, really special piece of silicon in terms of like quad channel, mobile capability, low power or high power. Like, the thing has a lot of scale, a lot of capability, but it's expensive to produce on TSMC. As a result, NVIDIA is probably thinking, man, if we could do x86, we could probably make a Strix Halo like how AMD made one. But if we could manufacture it on Intel for cheap, compared to having to pay the premium of TSMC, but also having extra capacity because of Intel's fabs, that would be an interesting reality. So that's probably one of the other things. I don't know. I'm just kind of brainstorming here, like, what are all the possible different factors that can go into why they are investing in Intel. There are like 10 plus x86 license holders. AMD owns the x64 extension completely. Yeah, if the fab stuff can be worked out, I think that would be a good way for NVIDIA to go. I mean, I think AMD should also go with Intel fabs. to be honest. Like, there's really no point in just everyone going off of TSMC. I mean, if Intel's fabs are comparable to TSMC, like, why would you not go with Intel? Even if you're AMD, right? Like, even if you're a competitor, maybe because they're a competitor, but that just puts them in such a weird spot because they can't scale. They can't scale up the way Intel can, and that's really why AMD has always kind of been stuck. You know, like, they've never been able to really get significant design wins because they can't get the sort of volumes. But if AMD manufactures on Intel's fabs, assuming Intel's fabs are good, why wouldn't they just do that? You know what I'm saying? Negotiations and security. Well, it's a political issue? Wait, what? You mean it has to do with government? Why would what? Why would that be a political thing? Like a government thing? Anyway, guys, I think that's pretty much it. Like, we didn't really have much to talk about besides this, I guess. So this wasn't even something that I even expected to talk about. But we won't really see the results of this announcement until like 3 years from now, 2 years at the earliest. They have probably been working on some of this stuff already, though, if I had to imagine. Because it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the talent from NVIDIA leaving and going to Intel. Government, all that. But I'm not... okay, I guess we're... What? Government bought 10% of Intel. Yeah, no, that I know. But I'm saying there's no reason why AMD can't just use Intel's fabs. Although, it was mentioned earlier it could be part of security, like, but I don't know. I don't know, man. If Intel was like TSMC and they were a pure play fab and they treated their fab independent of their chip design and they could somehow guarantee that, although there's always a chance it's like the competitor's stuff on their fab could get leaked to their design. I mean, there's always the chance that could happen, right? Like, even if you say, oh, we can build your chip even though it competes directly with our own, but we won't copy your design. We promise. You know, like, they can do that, but there's always a chance. But still, I feel like if there's a contractual agreement, Intel would have to uphold that. They would be legally bound, right? Personally, I really think NVIDIA and AMD should just use Intel's fabs. But the thing is, Intel's fabs have to be good. Oh, that's what happened? Yeah, I remember it was something like that. That was back in like the mid-2000s was when that happened. It was like 2005, 2006. Somewhere in there. Man, that was like 20 years ago. Wow. All right. Well, I mean, that's pretty much all I had to talk about. Intel will become more of a superpower. Well, the only thing that I kind of think is weird, and this is a weird thing that I was thinking about a few months ago, was when Intel got all the government tax dollars from the U.S. government, and then there was this rumors of them looking for a buyer for their fab potentially, and then immediately they quieted down about that when the government started hearing about those rumors. So then there was the whole stuff with the current CEO and how he's he's like invested in a bunch of like Chinese companies or whatever, and the U.S. government doesn't like that about him. And there's some other stuff too about him that I can't remember right now. But the one thing that I was gonna say is, I find it weird that when Intel was supposedly going downhill fast financially, the U.S. government is somehow supposed to give them a whole bunch of federal like tax dollars to prevent that from happening. And I was thinking, I couldn't help but think, like, why does the U.S. government have to do that? Like, why do they have to do that? Because if a company is going to end up failing and going out of business, hypothetically, because the company mismanages itself financially, personnel-wise, money-wise, whatever, right? Like, if a company is going to do that, why does the U.S. government have to bail them out? Like, I don't understand that. Because I recall a number of years ago, there was a similar chip design company that that designs their own CPUs as well, and they were supposed to go out of business in like 2019. But the U.S. government wasn't going to come to their rescue, if I remember correctly. But yet somehow Intel must be rescued and saved and propped up at all costs. Yes, take all the tax dollars and give them to Intel, because the U.S. can't survive without Intel for some weird reason. I don't know. The government needs to get access to high technology because missile use smart chips. It's about keeping the business active with all of its specializations intact. So there's some kind of reason the government is dependent on Intel then for something. Why doesn't the government... Well, whatever. That's probably a discussion for a different time. Rebuilding fabs, if Intel decommissions them, will take an insanely long time. Oh, well, it's because of the fabs then, right? Like, they're trying to save the fabs. Well, remember when all those rumors are going around about Intel looking at potentially selling off the fabs? That did not fly well with the US government. Can you imagine if they tried to do that, though? Like, if they accepted all that money from the CHIP Act, and then they're like, oh, let's sell our fabs. Can you imagine what would have happened? Probably. They probably would have got sued by the U.S. government, which means they're instantly going to lose. Because that should have looked so bad if they actually did that. You know what I mean? Because I remember when those rumors were going around. There were rumors circulating around that Intel was looking at buyers for their fab. And it quieted down when the president started like becoming aware of the state of Intel. They were like, no, we're not trying to sell our fabs. No, that's not true at all. We would never do that. Intel Design would immediately go broke without the fab. Makes me wonder, like, what about, like, Chinese chip design companies? Like, what is up with the Chinese companies, man? Like, they're, like, always behind for some reason. They're always behind, but apparently they've got so much R&D because the Chinese government can prop them all up, like 10 times over. But they're always behind. I don't know. And TSMC just keeps on going. But they're just doing fabs, though. I'm not talking about fab. I'm talking about, like, chip design and fab. It's like you are an oil refining nation. You are specializing in refining crude oil. Then you shut down your only refinery. Oh, I see. Well, there's only a few countries that have fabs, though, and Intel operates in other countries. Doesn't Intel have a fabrication plant in Germany? But I guess technically they're a US-based company, even though they're really a multinational company. But yeah, they're a US-based company, so... But yeah, isn't there... So, okay, who are all the... So we have Intel... TSMC, Samsung. Who else has fabs? Who are the other ones? What is it? What is the Chinese one? SMC or SMIC or what's the Chinese fab? The Chinese version of TSMC? I forget what it's called. SMIC or it's like something manufacturing company. It's like SMC or what? Oh yeah, I forgot about Global Foundries. I forgot all about Global Foundries. How can I forget about them? Global Foundries. There's like a Chinese one. Global Foundries. Are these the only ones? What about TI? Does TI is a chip design, aren't they? They're not a fab. IBM's fabless now. Who did they sell theirs to though? IBM had fabs. Who took over the IBM ones though? Was that Samsung? YTMC. Who's that? YTMC? I don't know who that is. Who is that? Like, what? YTMC. YMTC or Y? Oh, what? Oh. Youngtis Memory Technologies Company. That one? Oh, it's YMTC. Sony has fabs? Wait, what? What? Oh, they do. Are they even good, though? Oh, but those are for, like, camera sensors. Yeah, I guess they count. Yeah, I guess they count. You're right. They're for the camera stuff. SSS. Sony Semiconductor Solution. Dude, oh my goodness. I was thinking the other day, like, when Intel and NVIDIA, they announced the whole thing about NVIDIA putting all that money into Intel, like $5 billion. I was thinking, man, if NVIDIA is going to try to, like, absorb some of Intel, AMD and Sony should team up more. But see, like, that's the thing, man. That is exactly what is missing here. Like, where are the Japanese when it comes to fabs? Like, why aren't the Japanese competitive in semiconductor manufacturing? Like, I don't understand that. They were known to be, like, so good through the 1980s. And they just kind of, like, fell off. Like, it's like the Japanese tech giants just, like, walked off a cliff, broke their knee, and now they're just kind of like a shadow of their former selves. Like, I don't know what happened there. But it's like, man, if this could become just as good as TSMC, can you imagine? Because the Japanese economy is all kind of messed up right now. if Japan was more competitive in the technology space like they were in the 1970s, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I guess even through the 90s for the most part, Japan was still really strong. Then they became like, I don't know, man, they just kind of got really messed up. And it's weird because they, as far as I can tell, they didn't even really do anything to get into the situation that they're in economically. Yeah, exactly. Like Japanese capacitors. Like, why are there no, like, strong Japanese wafer fabs? Like, what is going on with that? Because it's like, oh, if NVIDIA, which is allied with Nintendo, kind of, you know, for the gaming stuff. I mean, I'm going out on a limb here, but if NVIDIA wants to absorb the power of Intel, like a Majin Buu style thing, and Sony and AMD have this strong partnership over well over 10 years now, because remember, AMD worked on the custom silicon for PlayStation 4 with the Jaguar SoC. AMD also did the PlayStation 5 and now the PlayStation 5 Pro, and they're working on the PlayStation 6. I'm pretty sure I can say that. I mean, it's not like announced officially, but pretty much we can assume that the PlayStation 6 is going to be based off of AMD designs in collaboration with Sony. So it's like, and then there was the whole thing with Mark Cerny announcing Project Amethyst, you know, with PSSR last year. So the collaboration between Sony and AMD is quite strong. And man, if these guys could become a powerhouse in fabs like that country was like a long time ago, man, the potential there, the market potential there. NVIDIA threw Intel a wafer purchase allowance to fab DGPU tiles that NVIDIA designed for a royalty and add a Spectrum X and NVIDIA Link controller. Yeah. Oh, that's all that is? Oh. Well, man, I mean, that sounds like that just benefits NVIDIA. NVIDIA is going to do what NVIDIA always does to benefit NVIDIA, because that's what they do. FSR 4 is going to be releasing on PlayStation 5 Pro, which is a clever. Yeah. That whole thing with the NVIDIA Intel announcement was so weird to me when I didn't know. Okay, so that's what they're doing? It's literally just NVLink on Xeon? Okay. It's like, yeah, man, that's more like that AI stuff. That's just a bunch of like AI nonsense. That's all that is. It's like they're doing that all for AI. They're trying to build that AI backbone, so when they finally make an iRobot AI thing that can think like 4,000 times faster than a human and process way more information than a human and have perfect memory, unless somebody overclocks the robot's RAM and it becomes unstable, and then the robot then gets Alzheimer's disease because of memory corruption. You know what I'm saying? It's like, unless someone goes and overclocks the robot and it gets messed up because of that, like unstable RAM induces Alzheimer's disease in a robot. Like, who would have thought? Wow. You know, yeah. But once those robots start showing up, that's kind of the beginning of the end, man. Just like, you really need humans at that point? Like, I don't know. This AI stuff. Imagine an Intel and NVIDIA handheld. Do you even need the Intel, though? Like, the Switch 2? It's like, do you even need the Intel for that? Like, no. But they probably will have some kind of thing. There'll be, like, some kind of NVLink Although, no, actually, no. That doesn't make any sense to put that in some kind of low margin handheld thing. I don't know. If all it is what Mike said, then that's just, it's more AI stuff. They want x86 Blackwell blade? What? For what? Hypercloud runs ARM. Why do these companies want why do they need a Blackwell blade? For what? What is that supposed to do? Like, what do they get by doing that they can't already do with existing solutions? Like, I don't understand why they want that. Like, why would Lenovo or Cisco need an x86 control plane Blackwell blade? They can't commoditize the GPU without the x86 control. What? What? Why do they not just do what they do today and just put it inside a server? No, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, move this stuff over here. You're saying they need a control plane x86 blade. So what I'm saying is you have a server, you have a rack server, you typically have two CPUs, you have dual socket CPUs right here, you have a bunch of RAM like right here. Oh, I don't want to waste time drawing all this out, but you have all these RAM chips. You know, anyone who's looked inside a server knows what it looks like. You have the two CPUs and you have the two RAM. In the back, you have the GPUs. You have your NVIDIA Blackwell blades literally inside the server in the back. You can put like up to 8 of them in there already today. So why do they need this so-called blade that has Blackwell with a x86? I'm not talking about Grace. No, this is an x86. This already exists today. Dual x86. I mean, this is a standard server. You can buy one of these from any of those vendors that you just mentioned. This is literally a rack server with RTX Pro 6000 times 8. This with 2x epic, you know, like, I don't know, 96 cores or 100, whatever, 128 cores or whatever, right? Like, whatever the core count is, doesn't matter. You can already do this today. This is currently the reference architecture. This is actually the Cisco reference architecture today. Okay? So why do these companies need a Blackwell in the CPU? What is the benefit of doing that? Hypercloud Grace. Yeah, that's a different thing. But the traditional x86 one, like, yeah, this is a traditional x86 rack server, which is already available today. And then you can also get the one with the Grace Hopper in it. But you don't have to, but you can get this. Because, see, the thing that a lot of people aren't talking about when it comes to AI is AI is the vast majority of AI is going to be inferencing based, not training based. Long term, it's going to be all inferencing. And inferencing, you do that with the Pro 6000s. You don't need the Hopper big Grace thing. You don't need that for inferencing. That's super expensive and completely unnecessary once the model's already trained. So this is the existing reference architecture today for the typical rack server. So I don't know what you're saying. Can't they already do this though? Oh, you're saying they don't want this. They want the big Blackwell thing, the giant Blackwell thing, but they want x86 in that. My question on that is why? What does that get them that they can't already do with something like this? That's interesting. I need to look into this because this is something that I was not aware of. No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But you wouldn't need that for inferencing, is what I'm saying. I mean, you could use it for inferencing. It's a very expensive waste of money for inferencing. But you could do that. I don't know why. This is the reason why I feel like a lot of companies that don't know how to adopt AI are going to get burned and they're going to overspend on a lot of hardware that they don't actually need. I don't know. Maybe I'm not understanding what you mean. Well, you keep saying control plane. This is the control plane, right? All this stuff is doing is your east-west traffic inferencing over those high-speed network interfaces. So you already have an x86 control plane with this. I don't understand what they want. The big... You're saying... Okay, so you're talking... I know what you're talking about now. You're talking about the big, like... Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's it. So they want... Huh. Okay. Why did they go to Intel for this? Oh, I guess because Intel has the potential with the fab. That's weird because I can tell you right now, I know for a fact that the two reference architectures are... There's this, and then there's the one that you're talking about, the big Grace, the Hopper Grace thing with the Blackwell. Like, that's the other one, too. That's the one for model training. That's very expensive. But this is the reference architecture today for a rack server. I'm just saying. But, yeah, they want the thing with all the bandwidth. That's what they want. I get it. I don't know why Dell needs it, to be honest. Because Dell... I'll tell you this. Dell doesn't actually need that. It's Dell's customers that are asking for that. It's not Dell. It's Dell's customers. It's companies like Google and Amazon and it's basically the AI companies. The AI companies want stuff like that. Not Dell. Dell's just like, hey, we don't actually have it right now, so we'll go and ask. That's what's happening. It's interesting that they went with Intel, because I'm trying to think, like, why did they go with Intel when the current reference architecture was AMD for the x86? And Intel has all these fab problems. I guess they're betting really big on Intel fixing their fab problems, because they can potentially get better vertical integration and better scale and time to market if they can get their fab problems straightened out. All right, well, that was an interesting discussion that I wasn't expecting to have about AI. I thought we weren't going to talk about AI on this stream, but I guess we did. Can you finish Silent Hill F before Ghost of Yotei? I don't know. All I know is Silent Hill F is probably going to be in October when I cover that game again. We're going to focus on Trails in the Sky again, yeah. I might try Final Fantasy Tactics, and then Ghost of Yotei will be after that. But yeah, we will be streaming Ghost of Yotei a week from now, whenever that game comes out. I think it's like literally a week from now. So actually, let me double check. Yeah, October 2nd. So that's literally next week. So I will stream Ghost of Yotei probably next Friday. So if you want to see how that game looks and runs on a PlayStation 5 Pro, that is what I will be streaming it on, because it is a PlayStation 5 exclusive for now, just like Death Stranding 2. So we will be covering Ghost of Yotei next weekend. This weekend, it's going to be Trails in the Sky. I really want to finish Trails in the Sky. I do not want to let that game just go where I'm like missing the final chapter. So I'm going to keep playing Trails in the Sky. So if you want to see the conclusion to that game, stay tuned for that. Final Fantasy Tactics. The problem with Tactics is I can cover it, but the problem is it comes out like right when the Monster Hunter Wilds collaboration also is made available. So Title Update 3 has priority over Tactics because I think it's like a limited time thing. So we will be doing Monster Hunter Wilds. So it's going to go like this. So we're going to do, for those curious who actually tune into the gaming streams, so we have Trails in the Sky, then we have Monster Hunter Wilds, followed by Final Fantasy Tactics, then Ghost of Yotei, and then Silent Hill F, and then maybe Fatal Frame later in the month. But that will be like way later. This will be like around Halloween. So I might do Silent Hill F, Silent Hill 2, and Resident Evil Village. I might do all 4 of these in the second half of October because that's around Halloween. So it will be kind of like in the theme of the season, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. So we'll do these and then we'll do these, I guess. Or maybe we won't do these. And maybe it'll just be Silent Hill F and Silent Hill 2. But regardless, we'll do something like that later on in the month. Final Fantasy Tactics for Switch 2. If I get it, it will be the Switch 2 version. I have decided that if I get Tactics, it's going to be Switch 2. Not the other platforms. Because it looks and runs great on Switch 2. But this is the schedule, guys. This is the schedule. So don't expect to see Silent Hill F soon, even though the game literally came out today. We covered it on Tuesday, and we'll revisit it at some point, but I gotta get this out of the way, and I will be doing this. I may do this. We will definitely cover Ghost of Yotei. So I can tell you, okay, this is guaranteed. This is guaranteed. This is maybe. This is guaranteed. This is guaranteed at some point. And then the rest of it is kind of like, I don't know. You know, like there's a question mark there. So Tactics, you may or may not see me playing Tactics. But yeah, the Trails in the Sky definitely, and Monster Hunter Wilds definitely. And this is the order that you will see them. This is September, so we got to get this done before October. This is very end of September. This is like, what is this? Like the very, very end of September. This is the very, very end of September. And then this is early October. And then this will be like the rest of October. And I think I don't have any other games. Like, I'm trying to remember, like, if there was something else. Battlefield 6 comes out. I'm not going to be playing that. Pokemon Legends, I might try that. Ninja Gaiden 4 is the only... Oh, Ninja Gaiden 4. Yeah. Okay, Ninja Gaiden 4. Ninja Gaiden 4. Ninja Gaiden 4, yeah, definitely. I don't know if I'll be able to play it at launch, though. I might have other stuff going on. But yeah, Ninja Gaiden 4, definitely stay tuned for that. All right, guys, but that's kind of a look at what to expect if you tune into the gaming live streams that usually happen on either Friday or Saturday evening. That's kind of the menu, I guess we'll say. All right, guys, I will see you next time. If you're new to the channel, we do these kind of long form open discussions every Thursdays. This is basically Tech Thursdays. Feel free to ask any sort of tech related question. If you're building a computer and you have a question about like a motherboard or RAM or whatever, it can be a simple, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Just ask your question. If you're a new time builder, we can answer it live so you get the correct advice. And yeah, we do that every week, every Thursday, and then on the weekend we sometimes, well, it's I say sometimes, but it's almost like every weekend now, except there are sometimes where I don't stream on the weekend. But yeah, we do the gaming side of the house. So if you just want to swing by real quick and just like chat about whatever, gaming related or PC related on the weekend streams, feel free to do so. And other than that, that's gonna be it. If you like this content, do get subscribed. Do hit the bell icon so you get notified when I go live, because sometimes I'll go live at a random time on the weekend in particular. So if you want to tune in to that, definitely hit the bell icon. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you all for tuning in as always, and I will see you guys next week on the next episode of Tech Thursdays. Until then, take care, and I will see you then. Thanks.